pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Carson. Dr. Fike.
Here.
Mrs. O'Rear.
Here.
Mr. Polakowski.
Here.
Mrs. Raymond.
Here.
Mrs. Rhodes.
Here.
Mrs. Heather Smith.
Here.
Mrs. Kristen Smith. Mrs. Williams.
Here.
Got you again, Vince.
Okay. We have asked the solicitor to give a statement before citizens' comments.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. So the board has asked me to make a statement before the meeting proceeds. My name is Amy Zundel. I'm the solicitor with the Southmoreland School District. The board has, with the leadership of Mrs. Smith, made the decision to move forward with tonight's meeting. You are all advised at coming in that to implement the order that was issued on August 31st, there's an expectation that on school property, indoors, you wear a mask. And the board is simply asking that to implement the order of the Secretary of Health. The board will be proceeding with its meeting, but I want to advise you that the plan is to allow for a virtual comment option for individuals who, while in an indoor setting, do not wish to wear a mask. There will be an alternative means to comment, and there will be a continued expectation that on Southmoreland School District property, individuals wear masks unless they have an exemption as listed in Section 3 of the order. That continues, the expectation continues into the school day tomorrow for all students, and they have asked me to make that clear. Thank you.
Okay, citizens' comments. We'll call you by name. Just a reminder when you come up, if you could please state your name and address, we would appreciate it. Part of the address is that is part of this, you have to live in the district to speak.
When you come up to speak, you'll have to state your name and then your address. The reason why they ask you to state your address is because only people who live within the district who are taxpayers can talk during citizen comment. That's a state policy. That's not even our policy.
Is there anything we can do to make it louder out there?
Aren't we funny?
Okay, first citizens comment. Oh, that's better. I guess we just needed to turn it up. All right, first citizens comment.
Joseph McGinty.
Oh, also as a reminder, you have 5 minutes. The solicitor will be timing and let you know when your time's up.
Good evening. My name is Joseph McGinty, 48 North Grove Street, here in Scottsdale, obviously. So it is abundantly clear that the governor's order is against the wishes of the majority of the Southmoreland and other school districts. However, it has been said that the governor's order would directly penalize school districts and its employees. However, what would be the ramifications of parents removing their children out of the school district and enrolling them into cyber charter schools instead? The district would lose funding with this option over waiting for the 16th September 2021 ruling to the injunction of the current order, allowing proper exemptions instead of losing students to cyber school. As an example, at the end of last year alone, there were 22,000 students enrolled in the cyber charter schools after being taken out of school districts by parents across the state. Please also know that because of the majority of the communities, including Southmoreland, with children in schools believe the governor has exceeded the authority granted him by the laws on which he relies, the board should be actively considering opportunities to participate in any litigation filed by other school districts seeking to challenge the governor's unilateral imposition of these requirements without any regard for local controls of schools. More importantly, the governor's orders specifically provide that a school should not enforce face covering requirements when there is an exception under Section 3, or if it is unsafe to do so, which also does not state the need or requirement of a medical professional's opinion. Also, Section 4, Paragraph 5, Section A, the governor's order also provides that one may not be required to wear a mask if wearing a face covering would either cause a medical condition or exacerbate an existing one, including respiratory issues that impede breathing, a mental health condition, or a disability. This is outside the realm of what the Department of Health is able to enact under the Infectious Disease and Control Act of 1955. Also, under ADA protection, replacing it with another measure in line with public health requirements, i.e. separation of desks, separation in hallways or during outside the classroom movement, 3 feet rule, etc. Proper understanding of hand washing and overall hygiene as alternatives to masking. Readily available, as they already are at the school and during school hours, the students listed above, guidelines of the ADA Code of Federal Regulations, CFR 28, Part 35, Title 2, and 36, Title 3. Why is this important? I, and I'm sure others, believe that school districts should be locally controlled and that parents are the best judge of their children's medical and mental health well-being per PA and federal constitutionally protection. The governor chose to impose this language, and he should be held to it, and that includes the exemption under Section 3. Ms. Beam, as well, can utilize control measures, but only in such a manner and in such places as is provided by rule or regulation. Currently, no rule or regulation that exists within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that provides for a mask mandate. So in closing, it's unenforceable, and what you are doing is just wrong. It's against the regulations, the rules, the laws of the student body, as well as the parents that can make a better decision for their children. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Christy Small.
Christy Smalley, 117 Spring Street, Scottsdale. I really didn't put anything together, but I'm even reading this, and this is from a 1955. This was put in place for an STD. This makes no sense to me at all. But it comes down to this: I don't co-grandparent with the government. I don't co-grandparent with the school district. I don't co-parent. Governor Wolf is not the granddad of my grandchildren, and the Secretary of Health is not the grandmother of my grandchildren. If God wanted them born with a mask, they would have been born with a mask on. It's done. Clearly, some of you are Christians up here, you already know. Open up your Bibles, read, you know what's going on. Stop.
Sandra Madison.
Cassandra Madison from Ruffsdale, Pennsylvania. The PA and U.S. constitutions ensures an individual's rights only be narrowly restricted by the government. A never-ending restriction on tens of thousands of children is not narrow. Per the Constitution, every child is entitled to receive an education. This isn't about masks, it's about your parental rights. Governor Wolf is using the Prevention and Control Law of 1955 to issue these mandates. This law allows the Secretary of Health to go in to mitigate any kind of disease outbreak, but it has to be limited in duration and scope, which means there is to be an outbreak first. With school just being back into session, right for the first of the beginning of the year, there is no outbreak. With that being said, if there's an outbreak, it needs mitigated to that specific building, and it cannot be mandated statewide. Last year, restaurants, bars, and gyms took this to court. The Department of Health either withdrew the case or the cases were thrown out of the court for the reason that there was no outbreak in that specific building. Attorney Eric Winters states the legality is handled locally, not statewide. The Department of Health cannot tell local school boards what to do. The school code The school board gets their power from the PA Public School Code. The PA Public School Code does not give the Department of Health or you, the local school board, the power to mandate masks. If it is not in the law, the school board cannot enforce it. You, the parents, have all the power. This is civil disobedience. You need to stand up and protect your children's rights. Know your rights according to the law. It is your right to send your children to school with or without a mask. The school board needs to file an injunction against the Department of Health. If they won't follow through, there are numerous attorneys taking on local school boards. According to the mandate, school boards have to allow for medical exemptions. Parents, you can legally write an exemption that states the mask is negatively impacting your child's mental or physical health. The school has to give you the exemption form to be exempt. Parents, you have the choice to send them to school with or without masks or cyber charter schools that are not affiliated with this district, which is paid for by the school. Additionally, as elected officials of this school board, you should be leading by example and showing children what it means to stand by your word. Last year, when questionnaires and surveys were sent out to the parents for their choice of masking or not, what happened to that? Everyone, I will tell you what happened with that. The school got COVID money. The district got a total of $4,959,174. The school board needs to account for this money. Also, I hate that the hate that is being spewed on social media from certain board members' husbands and indirectly her needs to be dealt with now. The fact that you, and I quote, I will state it again, that if you don't want to try and minimize, sorry children, this shit and not follow anything, then I hope you get COVID and die. There, is that what you want me to say? I don't care, I'll do what I want to protect my family, you do yours, good luck with that, end quote. This shows that it is okay for them to protect their family and their personal beliefs.
I'm very sorry, but part of the policy and procedures of
I'm not saying who it is. It's on social media. Anybody can look it up.
You're exactly right, but we're also allowing these
No,
comments.
so she's not going to fight for you or your children's right because it is not personal beliefs. This board member needs to resign immediately or action needs to be taken. Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 14 says, "Let me see your face. Let me hear your voice. For your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. We are all created in the image of God."
Before the next commenter is called, I just want to give a friendly reminder to everybody. Under the district's public comment policy, commenters are instructed to avoid personal attacks as well as profane language. Just a reminder. Thank you.
Isn't it supposed to be related to something we can actually, is on the agenda? I thought the comments were supposed to be limited to things that are on the agenda.
So we're going to go to the next commenter.
Jim Fratangelo.
Okay, don't start my time. I have a question first before you start my time. And we have 5 minutes. Okay, I'll keep track of my own time. Okay, the question is before you start my time.
Can you please state your name and your address?
Yes, I'm sorry. Jim Fratangelo, 733 Homestead Avenue. Okay, the question is, I don't know if you can give me an answer or not. You should have an estimate, somebody up there, an estimate. How many parents signed over their parental rights so that the school board, school district can make medical decisions on their behalf? Do you have an estimate, just roughly? Half the school to 50%, 10%, maybe all the parents signed over their rights? My point is, wearing a mask is a medical device according to the FDA. How are you imposing any type of medical device on a child without parental consent? And also, besides that, did you give informed consent? Along with any type of medical device comes informed consent, meaning that what are the pros and cons of wearing a mask? Is a mask dangerous? Were we informed of any of this? Where is our informed consent? Is there any? Okay, that was the question. You probably have no answer, but could somebody get me an answer? Okay, now,
So I actually will, I'll say something. So obviously, there's no consent with this. The power we had has been
I'm
taken
sorry,
away.
the what you had?
The power we had to help, we
The
did
pow-
vote,
the
and
power
we made
that
it
you had.
optional. We made it optional. So that, I know that there's certain board members that are just as frustrated because it's been taken out of our hands as well. And
Okay.
you can stop your time and add more.
Where is the form that you made it optional?
No.
Who started?
Listen,
Stop.
we want to hear everybody, please.
Okay, where's the form you made it optional? I gave you permission. Did they give you permission to make it optional? We're talking about imposing a medical device on a child. Now, these kids wearing a mask 8 hours a day, okay, 9 hours on the school, but whatever it may be, nobody in the medical industry, nobody other than the exception might be a surgeon, wears a mask that long. In these hospitals, you think they wear a mask 8 hours a day? No. It's off and on all day. They take a break, it's off. They wear it for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe an hour. A surgeon would be the only exception. You have little kids wearing a mask 8, 10 hours a day. Are you kidding me? Come on, people, get real. Think about this. I don't care what Wolf says. Do what's best for these children. Okay? What happened? Where's the freedom of choice? You took their rights away. These parents should decide. Does my child want to wear a mask? Yes or no? If you want to wear 2 masks, wear 2. If I see you driving around in your car with the windows up and you have a mask on, you're smoking a cigarette, I don't care. You want to stay locked inside your home? I don't care. Do it. What you're doing to these kids is just unbelievable. I'm 65 years old. I never thought I'd see this day. What you're doing, think about this, people. You better stand with us. This country is going down, and what you're doing, you're taking the rights from these parents. You know what that's called? Communism. We're on the verge of communism. You can either stand with us or stand against us, but believe me, you're going down with us. If we stand together, all of us, we need you. You need us. Stand together. Stop this. Now I'm going to quote from a couple different doctors, a couple quotes. You probably don't care. You should know this. If you don't know this, I can get this information to you. I've been doing medical research for the last 14 years. You want medical research? I will get that for you. I'll help you. I want to help you to help these kids. Okay. I lost my place. Some of this I'm not going to say because it's too over the top. Okay. First of all, there are 47 studies that confirm the ineffectiveness of masks. Ineffectiveness. 47 studies. Have you read any of these studies? My probably no. Okay. There are 32 more studies that confirm the negative health effects. Do you believe that? Have you read any of these? If you want the citations, go to LifeSite News. You can find 79 citations, LifeSite News. Read these studies. You're doing more harm than good. You're hurting these children. And I'll be honest with you, as a grandparent, I feel like you're bullying me. You seem like a bunch of bullies up there. I know you're not. I know you're good people. But that's the impression I get.
Sir, you're going to need to wrap up your comments. The 5 minutes has been reached.
What's been reached? Okay, can I take some of the other time that they had?
No,
I have some really important things to say.
That's not how it
Please.
works.
Okay. Now, let me quote these 2 different doctors. Give me 2 minutes, I'll be done, okay? I appreciate
Sir,
it. Thank you.
They can't
Okay, now, Dr.
permit you to
John
have 2 more
Ioannidis.
minutes. You have to conclude your
Dr.
comments.
John, okay, listen. Just, will you please listen? Give me 2 more minutes. 2 different doctors I want to quote.
Want to give him 2
Okay,
more
there's an epidemiologist,
Not even from
Dr. John Ioannidis from Stanford University, right? Well known throughout the medical industry, throughout the world. Okay, you know what he says? The survival rate for these young kids is 0 to 19 years old. 0 to 19, survival rate for COVID. And that's all, the whole school district. You know what the survival rate is? 99.9973. So these kids, you know what their chance of dying from COVID? Just about zero. Zero. Kids are not affected by this. Yeah, these kids, I'm telling you, these kids are not affected.
Could we please refrain from yelling out? Just so
Okay,
we
the
can
last
hear
thing,
the commenter?
let me cut this short. One more minute, I'm done. Okay. One more minute, I'm out of here. I appreciate your time. Okay. World-renowned Canadian pathologist, Dr. Roger Hodkinson, Hodkinson. This is what he had to say, among other things. I can't quote everything he said. Okay, Dr. Hodkinson, remember, I'm Dr. Hodkinson, I'm quoting him. Hold on. This is the greatest hoax ever perpetrated on an unsuspecting public. There is utterly unfounded public hysteria driven by the media and politics. You want to get rid of COVID? Turn off your TV. COVID goes away.
Oh my God!
Okay? There is nothing you can do to stop this. It's a bad form of the flu. Masks don't work. Social distancing doesn't work. You cannot stop this. There is nothing you can do. No.
Sir, you have 15 seconds to wrap up the comment.
Okay, I appreciate that. Okay? This is politics playing medicine, and that's a very dangerous game.
Sir, your time has been concluded.
Okay.
We need to
The last sentence is, this is the last sentence of his statement, okay? And he says, and I'm done. He says, I am outraged that this has reached this level. It should all be stopped tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you.
Rebecca Lau. Rebecca Lau.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm everywhere. My name's Rebecca Lau. I reside at 1144 Springer Road, making me a resident of Southmoreland School District, which I have been all of my life. I have 4 children with my husband, David Thomas. I always imagined that my children would attend the Southmoreland School District as I did. Yesterday, I had to make the hard decision to pull my 7th grader out of in-person instruction and place her into, you'll be happy to hear, the SOLA program offered by Southmoreland. I promised at the beginning of the school year that she would not have to wear a mask to school, and I was excited to inform her that she did in fact have a choice, that she was not going to be forced to wear a mask. She was pleased to hear this, but not optimistic. It's not going to last, she told me. They're going to change it once we start. I didn't want to agree. I wanted my child in school where she belongs. The first 3 days of school were a breath of fresh air. Witnessing my children's smiling faces as they described their days was something my 7th grader didn't often do in 6th grade. I'm not sure if it was the masks or the inconsistency of the school year where the children yo-yoed back and forth between in-person and virtual instruction. When you go to school to become an educator, every professor will tell you that structure, routine, and consistency are the foundations to a healthy and positive learning environment. Our children complied last year. They wore their masks, and they were still out of school close to half of the school year. So those who say, who cares if they have to wear masks, if that means they'll be in school 5 days a week, wear the mask. What makes you so sure this year will be any different than last? I do not envy a single person sitting up here on this stage this evening. It's a responsibility that I'm unable to commit to at this stage in my life. As I've said before, and many know, 2 of my children are in school, and 2 of them are too young and stay home with me, while my husband is 220 miles away Monday through Friday, working to provide for his family the best that he can. However, it is the board's responsibility to make decisions on behalf of the taxpayers and the children of this community. My question is, after the news on August 31st that the PA Department of Health was mandating masks in all school settings for children K through 12, were you given the opportunity to come together to discuss options for September 7th? I would have to guess no, because the alternative to that was that each and every single one of you were invited to come together to discuss all and exhaust any options possible on how you could come upon an agreement after you already turned in a health plan to the state, as did many other districts. Close to 500 of them turning in the same thing, saying that masks would be optional. I could only imagine that because you didn't meet, you were either not invited to or you refused the invitation. I'm willing to wager that it was the former scenario. There was a press conference at 2 p.m. August 31st, and the letter came to the parents around 4 o'clock. If there was a meeting, that had to be one fast meeting. Of course, there was not a meeting. When speaking to Mr. Masher yesterday, I asked if the decision to send the letter was a decision made by the board. And his response was that the decision to send the letter out so hastily was a decision made by the solicitor and the administrative team. As can be inferred from the previous statements, I don't have much free time. Finding all the data and statistics on masks or COVID is something I simply don't have the ability to do. But other people have found very reliable and interesting data on both the use of masks and COVID. I've seen the argument on both sides, and I have, by my God-given right, chosen to believe that putting masks on these children are not going to stop or slow the spread of COVID. The company that sells these disposable masks will tell you that right on the side of the box. I do, however, believe that putting masks on our children will have a number of adverse mental, emotional, and physical effects. In regards to the mandate, I was interested in trying to understand why some school districts accept a letter from a parent in order to exempt their children from wearing a mask in school, but ours is requiring us to give consent to our children's medical records. In Section 4A of the order, nowhere does it state that a licensed healthcare provider, as Southmoreland is requiring, state a possible medical condition. So why is Southmoreland requiring that? Our conversation on the phone yesterday, Mr. Masha informed me that that was a decision made by our school solicitor. I have heard over and over, but other districts aren't requiring a doctor to approve exemptions. As of yesterday morning, I've spoken to the office of the state.
You to wrap up your time. The 5 minutes has passed.
I have heard over and over, but as of yesterday, I spoke to Representative Ryan Warner. I've spoke to Office of Senator Pat Stefano. They hear us. They know we're unhappy. They're unhappy. We were told by the board, if you're unhappy, talk to them. They say they can't do anything. This is between the taxpayers and the people that they elected. And I can't read anymore because I'm on time here. Which, it's crazy. I did a sermon for church. 3 minutes. 3-page sermon at church took 15 minutes, and my 4 pages here is over 5. Okay. I heard over and over again about this. 500 school districts turned in their plan to the state. Wolf wasn't happy with that. He doesn't have the right to mandate it, so he found a loophole, and he went through the PA Board of State Health, and guess what? There's something in the motions right now to take that power away from them that they're trying to take from us. And what I see here is something happening that's very similar to Wolf undermining the local governments. It's the administrative team undermining those that were elected by the taxpayers to make decisions by voting on matters that involve our children and our community. And this is the last thing, and I really do think that you will appreciate this. During the months of, when I talked to somebody on the phone, they said, I said, I'm just trying to find the right, I'm trying to educate myself. I'm trying to find the appropriate information to say tonight. And he said, the appropriate thing to say would be to say what you feel. During the months of April and May of 2020, my husband worked from home. There were many nights we sat together after the children were sound asleep and talked about the world we've come to live in. The television was flooded with COVID-19 updates, statistics, recommendations that changed daily and still do. Citizens of the United States of America were destroying their cities. There were riots and protests. There was division everywhere you looked, judgment and dirty looks to those who chose faith over fear in the grocery store. People couldn't peacefully eat at a restaurant without being assaulted in broad daylight. One night I told my husband, this isn't about wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. This isn't about being a Trump supporter or a Trump hater. This isn't about if someone is racist or if someone is not racist. There's a bigger battle going on here, bigger than all of that. This is a battle of good versus evil.
Ma'am, you need to conclude your comments.
My view on the world at that moment changed. I didn't want to see the world through the eyes of the news stations any longer. Well, many of us are here this evening because we're concerned for our children, their educations, and their futures. I'm here because I'm concerned for my community.
Ma'am, you need to conclude your comment. We've given you 3 extra minutes.
I appreciate that. I really do. This is the part that I really think that you are going to like. Guys, I can't change the world. Not tonight. Anyways, I can't change the world. Not tonight. We as a community, we can come together and we can make a stand. We can educate ourselves on what's going on.
Okay, next commenter, please.
Ashley Farrell.
Oh, for the love of Jesus.
Ashley Farrell.
I think so. Even if they stand like over here.
Hello? I'm sorry. Hello, my name is Ashley Farrell. I live on 1368 Mount Pleasant Road in Mount Pleasant. Okay, hold on. Don't start the time. I'm starting my time too. I'm not going to be long. Okay. Ooh. Good evening. I am a mother of 5. Whew. This is, whew. Okay. 3 of them attend this district. My wonderful husband and I graduated from this district, and we're beyond excited knowing that our children, our sweet little 5 babies, were going to get to grow up in our district, that we both have our names down at the not junior high, gosh, down at the stadium. So we were very excited that we get to show our children what we've accomplished by being in Southmoreland School District. We have a 6th grader, a 4th grader, and a 1st grader. It's my 1st grader's birthday today. She's 7. It's almost 10 till 8. I got to put her to bed soon. Do you understand how important this is? Do you get it? You up there who have kids, think of that. Think of when you had your baby's birthday parties and you're standing at a meeting with a bunch of wonderful people. Wonderful. I love you all. Thank you all for standing up. Think about how important it is to miss your baby's birthday. Okay. Last year we chose to put our children in an amazing cyber school. We did not want our children masked, nor did we want Group A and Group B and all the nonsense that came with last year. We wanted consistency. What?
Stupid dad, it's still stupid.
Thanks, babe. That's my husband. We wanted consistency, which is what Rebecca just said, and we got it. I cannot say anything bad about that school. Fast forward to August 18th. My mother-in-law, who's here tonight because she's amazing, joked with me, Ashley, you haven't signed the kids up for school yet. I said, I know, Mary Helen. I'm waiting. I need to wait. I'm not wasting my time while I'm holding an 8-month-old baby. That's who's talking. Angie boy, don't cry. while I'm breastfeeding him, signing up my children, which was quite a feat. Those of you who breastfed understand how hard it is to sign a piece of paper many, many times for 3 children and breastfeed a baby. However, I waited until that moment because I wanted to make sure masks were optional. They were on August 18th. They were recommended but not required, was what I was told when I signed them in. It's the last thing I said to the lady at the office. I'm not going to say anyone's names. We were so excited for them. We got out and got them their school clothes. We got their school shoes. We got their school socks. All the stuff that's so exciting for kids. After not being in school last year, you can imagine their excitement. You all voted for masks to be optional. So when we found out on August 31st that Governor Wolf said he was going to instate this mask mandate, I had faith in all of you. That's okay. Our school board voted. You will have an emergency executive meeting, you will file an injunction, and we will fight this. We will fight this. I messaged a few of you, talked to a few of you. Nothing was done. Nothing was done. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm just picturing putting my babies to bed tonight for the last time that they're going to be in this school district this year. And I'm missing it because I'm here with you, because they will not be in school on Monday. And I'm sorry to cry. I'm sorry. I'm not a weak person, but I'm heartbroken. And I don't think tears are going to make you go, oh, I'm going to feel bad for her. But this is so important to me that I'm missing their last school night. And none of you care. None of you care. That's the saddest part. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're right. I'm sorry, Dr. Fike. Oh, shoot, I'm at 4:33. Are you at 4:33?
You have 45 seconds.
45 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, so after the exemption form started posting, I saw Somerset, then Mount Pleasant, then York. I felt like a little girl watching the news. Remember this? Remember watching the news in the morning, seeing if you had a 2-hour delay or a snow cancellation? Remember how exciting that was? I thought Southmoreland's going to put it out. They're going to put it out. Remember back in the day, when, speaking of being a little girl and excited about that, remember back in the day when if you were a girl in here, you remember this. Remember asking, you're going to call your friends and ask if you're going to wear a skirt in the morning? Remember my girls? Oh, you're going to wear a skirt? And I don't know what boys did, but we were all excited. You wanted to wear a skirt the same day. Have all these fun memories. Remember Laurelville? Remember Gettysburg? What are my children, well, not mine, what are the children in this district going to remember? How many of the teachers gave you mask spray?
Ma'am, your 5 minutes is concluded. I'd ask you to wrap your comments up. Thank you.
Okay. If a vote is my point was that, never mind, what does it matter? If a vote is happening tonight, please reflect on your favorite memory of school. Think about if you want our children to remember about masks being forced upon you by adults and how that has to, imagine, you don't want me to yell at you, so imagine a little child and being yelled at for not pulling up their mask, their Mickey Mouse cloth that doesn't do anything. I'm going to just ask one question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words. Tonight, if there is an option to vote for masks to be optional, will you choose good or will you choose evil? Thank you.
Jamie Fratangelo.
Hello, my name's Jamie Fratangelo. I have 2 kids in the district. I live at 1109 Fayette Avenue. Sorry, nerves. Let me start by saying data collected by the COVID-19 response dashboard run by education groups, including the School Superintendents Association, found that schools in school districts without mask mandates had lower case rates than schools with mandates. The human body is designed to expel waste through exhaling. if you're wearing a mask, where is that waste going? It's going to the moist areas around your mouth and nose and being inhaled right back into your body. If you were to ask any teacher, how often do you see your students touching the masks that are on their face? They probably couldn't count the amount of times. These masks are known to become contaminated with a variety of bacteria and germs, not to mention some of our little ones may not be at the point yet where they're washing their hands very well, and then they're touching their faces as they come out of the restroom. And that's on the mask that you expect them to keep against their face. And how many parents do you believe are washing those cloth masks every day? Probably little to none. Children rely on facial expressions and to interpret what they hear. They respond to facial cues and interact and respond appropriately to their teachers and peers. The harm done when that key part of human interaction is eliminated should not be overlooked. These masks have created an overwhelming amount of fear and anxiety in our kids. The mask mandate is teaching our children that they should not only fear their own body, but everyone else around them. For the sake of our children's current and long-term mental health, please do not take away our rights as parents to make that choice for them. Thank you.
Robert Calero.
I'm Robert Calero. I live at 2137 Kingview Road. I had a lot of prepared notes, but I think you've all heard the basic tenor of what all of these parents are saying tonight, and I don't need to repeat it. But I do need to ask each and one of you board members, as I have sat there before, the decision that you're making that the children in this school district need to wear masks, is it being made to protect yourself? Are you afraid of the lawsuit? I wouldn't blame you if you were, but I want to know what your true convictions are. Do you go out in public and be with unmasked people? Are your spouses with unmasked people? Do they coach or do they participate in any activities at church with unmasked people, but yet you live with them, you're with them every day, and that's okay. So your problem with the mask for basically all the children in this district is that one person has told you you have to do it. All I'm asking you to do is to look at your conscience, and if you say, I really don't believe I should force anyone to wear a mask, and you can't, as a school board member, go against what the governor is saying, then why don't you just resign? And I say that for the school board members because I know that high salary that you all get paid, that I also received, those $0 that you got every year, would be a real heartbreak. But if you truly believe that masks shouldn't be mandated and you don't want to go against the governor, then close down the school district by closing down the school board. And Mr. Masha, I also want to say this to you. You as an educator, you as knowing what history has revealed to us, sometimes you have to take a stand. Sometimes you have to say, you know, my job is really important, but principles are more important. And if you need to resign for fear of liability, then that's what you need to do. Thank you.
Jan Kiefer, 628 Homestead Avenue. I would challenge the board, I'm looking at all the faces that put masks on the kids last year. Come out, let's exchange our information. Let's see where you're thinking, and you can see where we are. We'll deconstruct yours and learn. You can deconstruct ours, and we'll see where we come out on the local level. Why won't you do that? You have public health committees that form just for this purpose and specifically chartered to bring in the public, yet you wouldn't let me on that. You wouldn't record those meetings. You don't really have a public meeting on this school board. I think you should be shut down. I think that would be the healthiest thing to happen. 5,000. So 5,000 of these little viruses fit through one of the smallest openings in your mouth. 5,000 of those guys. I like those numbers. And you forgot a comment period at the end of this discussion period. Your attorney's going to say, yeah, we can do this, we can do this. But you can also say, don't do it. So it'll be the first time that I can remember that you've omitted a public comment period in these circumstances. So yeah, you look to the rewrite and she'll say you can legally do it. It's never been done. It shows where you care. There's still time to change that.
Lynn Bell. That is the last comment.
So we are going to start the special voting agenda part of the meeting. All right, so approval of emergency.
I'm sorry, I have to say something right now, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to stall this meeting or anything, but I just sat here. I'm sorry. Basically, the questions of, or not, I'm sorry, not the questions, but like the comments of like, thank God, and they're done. These are our people. Whether anybody likes them or not, we have to listen to them. It doesn't matter how many comes in this door, whether they're masked or not, we have to listen. And we need to hold back the comments and the ignorant comments. Because until now, we have yet to have anybody in this seat other than Mr. Kiefer. And I am so happy that we have parents going to come up here because it is petrifying to stand up here in front of us, for us not to say anything back to them. It's courage. That's what it did to me. It took me a lot of courage to get up there and stand in front of you, and that's why I'm in this spot I am right now. Because I fought for this. Whether anybody likes it or not, I fought for this. So, enough with the commenting.
So there is discussion under the superintendent is going to tell us some things about. The superintendent. I'm not on vacation. That's not me. So we are going to go through this part in the superintendent information. He has information that he is going to discuss. We have to get through these first things first, and then we will get to that. So, emergency certification.
The board is asked to approve administration to apply for emergency certification for Amy Hickson, SES, SMS, school nurse, and Alex Basato, SHS science.
Need a motion? Second?
I will second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Dr. Fike? Mrs. O'Rear?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith?
Yes.
Motion carries 7 yes. Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Sorry, 8 yes, 2 absent. 1 absent, I'm sorry.
Full year sabbatical.
Board is asked to authorize a sabbatical for the 2021-2022 school year for health restoration for number 2826.
I need a motion. Second. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Rear,
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Accept resignation of Dave King, custodian, effective immediately.
The board is asked to accept the resignation of Dave King, custodian, effective immediately.
I need a motion, please.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Discussion.
Voice vote. Can this be voice vote?
Yes, it can be.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Accept resignation of Amanda Marengo, cafeteria worker. Need a motion?
Skipped one.
Yeah, we skipped the Katie one.
Jeff King.
Learning
I'm
support.
sorry.
We skipped some.
Sorry. We'll go back to that one. I apologize. Re-advertise for learning support K-1 teacher. I need a motion? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Math. I'm sorry. Not mine.
The board is asked to authorize the administration to re-advertise for a K-1 teacher for learning support.
I need a motion?
I moved.
Second?
A second.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Polakowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Williams.
Yes.
Carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Accept resignation of Seth King, effective September 18th, 2021.
The board is asked to accept the resignation of Seth King, custodian, effective September 18th, 2021. And advertise. Can we add that?
You cannot
Cannot?
amend.
Sorry.
No. You have to vote on it as indicated per Act 65.
Accept the resignation of Seth King, custodian, effective September 18th, 2021.
Can I have a motion, please?
A motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Accept resignation of Amanda Marengo, cafeteria worker.
The board is asked to accept the resignation of Amanda Marengo, cafeteria worker, effective immediately.
Can I have a motion, please?
A motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Accept resignation of Cindy Sid, cafeteria worker, effective immediately.
The board is asked to accept the resignation of Cindy Sid, cafeteria worker, effective immediately.
Can I have a motion, please?
A motion.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 2122 Westmoreland County Juvenile Probation Officers.
The board is asked to authorize the Westmoreland County juvenile probation officers to carry firearms into school and on school premises during their official duties for defensive purposes.
Can I have a motion?
A motion.
Second? Discussion? Roll call?
Raymond,
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes,
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Kristen Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Fike,
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear,
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Resignation of Heather Smith as WIU Board Representative.
The board is asked to accept the resignation of Heather Smith as WIU Board Representative, effective immediately.
Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
A second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? WIU Board Representative.
The board is asked to appoint a replacement as school board representative to the Westmoreland Intermediate Unit Number 7. The term expires June 2022.
I'd like to
ask that the board appoint Dr. Fike to that position if she's willing to accept.
Did anybody hear what she said?
Not really.
Can you say it again? You say it again?
Sorry. Yes, I said I would like to ask the board to appoint Dr. Fike to that position if she is willing to accept.
Dr. Fike, would you be willing to accept that position?
I've done it before and I'll do it again.
Okay, thank you. So do we need to add a...
You do. You're going to have to amend this motion. So first we need a motion and a second on the original motion. And then you'll need a motion to amend to have Dr. Fike be appointed.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll make the motion to appoint a replacement.
Okay, second? Okay, and discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so,
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Dr. Fike as the WIU 7 representative with a term expired June 2022.
I will second that. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Middle School Student Council.
Board is asked to accept the resignation of Ken Leete as moderator of the Middle School Student Council and authorize the administration to post the position.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Day-to-day secretarial cafeteria substitute.
Board is asked to approve Shira Barnhart, Connellsville, PA, as a day-to-day substitute on an as-need basis for secretarial and/or cafeteria. All clearances are current and on file with administration.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second? Second. Discussion? Roll call?
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear?
Yes.
Mr. Polakowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Raymond?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mrs. Heather Smith? Mrs. Kristen Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Williams?
Yes.
Motion carries 8 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, that concludes the voting
Christie,
portion.
I would like
Yes.
permission to speak to the public. I'd like to speak to the public and the board, if I may. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming here tonight. You all know where I stand, and that's not the issue. What I want to do is I want to help you a little bit tonight. Somebody said, we can't change the law. Right now, we are living under a dictatorship. You know it, I know it. That's not the issue. But because we can't change it, right now, your children are still mandated to wear masks. Now, I want to talk about something that I have not heard anybody else mention on the planet. I want to talk to you about what is happening to your children's ears. Your ears are not bone. They're cartilage. The law says that every child over the age of 2 has to wear a mask. Did you ever touch the ears of a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old? They're little soft cartilages. There are 4 kinds of masks, and the most common one are the ones that have an elastic strap that goes behind the ear, right? That's the one that most parents choose. There are others. There are some that are ear loops, which are also pretty bad. There are some where they slit and they put the ear down, and then there's the ones that they pull up over your mouth. But the ear is a very delicate part of your body. These are growing children. The only research that I was able to find, and I'm going to distribute this to the board, is from a group of 6 physicians, and they are plastic surgeons. I think they call them aesthetic surgeons now. Children are sometimes born with what's called ear protrusion. Their ears stick out. You don't fix them, people call them Mickey Mouse ears, Dumbo ears, things like that. It's very cruel, very hard on children who have this. If that surgery is performed very, very early, because it's delicate cartilage, they have about a 90-some% success rate. By the time a child reaches 7 or 8, it drops to about 25 or 30% that they're able to do anything about it. What I would like you to do is, if you have a mask, you put it on, and then I want you to grab the mask and pull it down. You're not pulling on your nose, you're not pulling on your mouth. Feel what you're pulling on. Feel it. This is critical. This kind of tissue, cartilage tissue, has what's called tissue memory. When it is pulled in a certain direction or all kinds of directions over an extended period of time, it tends to go there and stay there. Please, even though your children have to wear masks, please, I have some suggestions that you can help them. People here have already talked about the inhaling carbon dioxide and so forth and so on. I'm not going to go into that. Children will pull that mask down many, 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 many times a day. And every time they do that, they're pulling their ears. When you change, this is called an auricle, when you change your ear, they're designed so that sound goes in there in a certain way. If you change the configuration of the auricle, you can alter how sound gets in there to be processed. These doctors are saying that there is a potential for hearing damage as a result of alternating this part of the body. Anytime you change a part of the body, it's a different story. But I have some suggestions. When your child has to have a mask, they put the mask on. Number one, check and see how tight that band is. Okay, make sure that you're not forcing that band tight behind their ears. Secondly, when they go to take them off, they just go like this, right? Try to teach them to reach up behind and release the straps. Release those elastic bands without pulling on the ears, because they'll do that. You understand that? They will do that. Like I said, nobody has talked about this. I have been observing it, and particularly with little boys who tend to have short hair. Ear protrusion can be very serious in a cosmetic sense. Girls sometimes can hide those things with their longer hair. But there's one other thing I wanted to mention to you, and this has been in the news, and I'm not hearing about it much. They did some research in Ireland. People who wear masks for prolonged periods of time become mouth breathers. Mouth breathers. Do people know that 7.5% of all children in America have asthma? Did you know that? It's that prevalent. We're talking masks on these kids. But anyhow, when these people in Ireland who became mouth breathers because they were masked, they started to notice facial changes. Their faces were beginning to elongate. So if you look at a picture of yourself when you were 3 or 4 years old and then 10 years old and then when you're 20, you don't look the same, right? But they're saying these people may not end up looking like they would have looked like with this prolonged masking, mouth breathing, and things like this. So I just want to encourage you to teach your children how to use that mask. Try to minimize the pressure. Does this make sense to you? Does this make sense? You don't think it's going to happen? Oh, no. Are you disagreeing with me that if you wear a mask, this can happen? That's what I'm saying. Prolonged mask wearing has consequences. And I'm not saying that I'm not going to do the pro-mask, anti-mask. I'm just saying as long as your child has to wear a mask, try to help them. Make sure they're not pulling their ears with the elastic bands. And if they're pulling them up and down a lot during the day, they are pulling on those ears. But in very young children, remember, this goes from 2-year-olds up, 2-year-olds. And that's what's really scary, that they're in daycare, I guess in nursery schools, they're going to be wearing these masks. So, you know.
Dr. Fike, I agree with that. I think that these kids should be taught to take the loop off of one ear versus pulling it down, like you said, to your has great pressure on your ears. Another thing.
Michelle, can you hold on for 1 second?
Yep.
Michelle Williams is joining us. Michelle Williams is joining us via Zoom. Sorry. Yeah, no, it's none of us. It's Michelle Williams. She's via Zoom.
Thank you.
But Dr. Fike, I agree with that. I think that we should teach these kids not to pull that around their chin. It does cause to be super. They're leaving it there for a lunch period or longer, such as recess or something that could cause issue. The thing that parents could do if they are concerned about that issue is a lot of healthcare workers are doing two things. One is a headband that would just be fabric with buttons sewn on it so that that mask is looping onto the headband. And there are also straps that you could buy that would go behind your neck. Some of those show the wearer wearing that up over their ear. I would recommend that you eliminate your ear altogether and put it just behind your neck, both pieces of it. It does tend to help the mask stay in place better, where you're not pulling it up and down all day to keep it covering your mouth and your nose.
Okay.
It does.
Okay, thank you.
A bit better.
Okay, thank you. We are going to adjourn this part of the voting meeting, and then Mr. Masha has asked for a recess for a few minutes, and then we will start the next part of the meeting. So, yes. We'll put the paper back up. So, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Yes, we will. 5 minutes. It's 8:27. At 8:32, we'll start again. So, motion to adjourn?
I made the motion.
Second?
We have to vote it. All those in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. It'll just continue. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Carson?
Okay.
Dr. Fike?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Rear?
Yes, here.
Mr. Polakowski?
Here.
Mrs. Raymond? Here. Mrs. Rhodes? Here. Mrs. Heather Smith?
Here.
Mrs. Kristen Smith?
Here.
Mrs. Williams?
Here.
Citizens' comments.
Barry Miller.
So my name's Barry Miller. I live on North Street in Scottsdale. 4 children in the school district. I wasn't going to speak, but I was motivated by what everyone said this morning. So I'm going to go to a couple of notes I took. This is just an observation. I listened to Mr. Calero's comments. Happens to be my father-in-law. So I'm not going to disagree with him. Regarding the boards, what your true motivation and what your thought process is in making these decisions. And I carefully watched all of your faces. Your body language completely changed. I saw a couple of your shoulders dropped, almost like a release, like, oh, thank you for recognizing that. The thought process to your conscience is very important, right? Then there was an earlier comment with regards to Mr. Masha's letter coming out so quickly in response to what the Department of Health's mandate was. I thought about that, and I'm like, I know Mr. Masha somewhat from my activities with the swim coaching and that kind of thing, and I thought, that is uncharacteristic. He's a thoughtful guy, he thinks through. Then I recalled, well, I didn't recall, one of the reasons I'm not happy about this, is I submitted a request for an exemption for my oldest son, who has a legitimate medical reason not to wear a mask. And I gave chapter and verse. And it was so quickly rejected. And again, the robocall said it was, I think it began with, it was the solicitor. So I'm looking at these 3 things, and I'm thinking, the solicitor advised this, the solicitor advised that, the solicitor. Do we have a good solicitor? We had a comfortable relationship with the solicitor for so long. Are we getting good advice? Did you make the decision to reject all the medical exemptions? It's a thought, you know what I mean? Without looking at them. Did you look at any of them? That's my time up. I'm done.
You still have 2 minutes.
Your time was not up. That was just a phone.
I feel like I made my point.
Okay.
And that's my thought process.
Okay. Thank you.
Rebecca Lau.
Hello. Do I have to restate everything? Okay. I apologize for coming up again. I don't have anything more to say. Had I planned this out a little bit better, I probably would have had a part A and a part B to my speech and saved the part A to the part questioning how the process, the voting, how things were decided, and the fact of the Section 4A and the mandate, just saying that an individual state, there's a medical condition, and that's what a local school board neighboring here at Southmoreland, that's why they are accepting their parents' letters, because they carefully looked at the order and how the words are stated. And nowhere in the order does it say, in order for your child to be exempt, they need to have their doctor give permission or not permission. In the order, it states an individual must state. So this district had somebody guiding them, looking at the wording. There's a reason why they use those wordings, because they think we're stupid. And we're not. And that's where I was coming, that I said, you guys are going to like this part, because I bet it's been a long time, if ever a time, that you've seen this many people from the community come to a board meeting. I was here at the last one, and there was 2 people along with some teachers that were here, and a couple of people down here. There's never been this many people, I'm sure, for a lot of you, or for a long time. So while many of us are here, like I was saying, for the concern of our children, their futures, for these masks and what they're doing to them, as I was saying, I can't change the world. I'm going to read again because I do better just saying what I already pre-thought. I can't change the world, but as a community, we can come together and make a stand, and we can educate ourselves on what's going on around us here in our community and here in the state, something that I never felt the need to do until COVID came up and everybody was bashing my president. However, we can take the knowledge we gain and we can make wise decisions that will have a positive impact on our children's futures. I'm not sure what will come of this mass situation here at Southmoreland, but I know we can take this unity that we've found through these uncertain times and build a better future for our children, because children is my first nature in everything that I do, and that's why I teach children at church. That's why I put much of my money that my husband is now paying, because he works and I don't, towards student loans for my teaching certificate. Because children are our future, they are our world, they are my world when it comes to my household. However, I put my faith in God and God alone. He can make good out of any situation. Nobody forget that. Any situation thrown our way, the Lord can make good of it. Through these uncertain times, I'm going to seek His will, and I'm going to be strong and courageous because the Lord God, my Father, is with me, and I'm going to spend every day trying to love my neighbors and my community the way Jesus loves.
Jim Fratangelo.
Okay, thank you for having me back up. I was running a situation and I was joking earlier with some of the people out here with friends, but the more I think about it, I'm going to be serious about this, and you might think I'm crazy. Believe me, I'm not. We live in a bizarre world. There are things happening that I never thought I would ever see. Now, what I may do, I'm going to challenge, possibly, I'm not saying I will do this, I may challenge the school district. I will present to you a group of children who identify as wearing a mask. What do you say to that? Can these kids identify? You want full compliance? You want to run with that and say, hey, Wolf, hey, Fauci, we got every member in our school district full compliance wearing a mask. Okay, so can I identify as wearing a mask? Can these children identify as wearing a mask? Now, I can identify, I think I can change it from day to day. I can go out to Target in Greensburg. I identify as a woman. I go in the ladies' bathroom, use the ladies' bathroom. Tomorrow I'm a man again. Next week I go out to Walmart. I'm in the ladies' bathroom. They call the police. What are you doing? You're discriminating. I identify as a woman. You're discriminating against me. So with these new anti-discrimination laws, can I present to you a group of kids who identify as wearing a mask? What do you say to that? What's your answer to that? Do I have any answers, or you'll get full compliance? Your problem has been solved. It's over. Everybody has a mask. Well, why?
I understand where you're coming from.
Do you know what I mean? That we live in such a crazy world. Do you understand my point to this? I can go in a ladies' bathroom as a man. Are you kidding me? They allow that? Okay, forget about it. Okay, let's move on. We are coming to the end of a lot of things here. Things are happening so fast. And I don't look at you as the enemy. I look at you as community members, people who have families. Well, I'm telling you, we're going to need each other real soon. And if you alienate us and you need help in the future with whatever may happen, do you think these people are going to stand with you or against you? They're going to remember decisions you make affecting the kids that go to the school district. You're local. You're not on a state or federal level. You're here. Help us. Help our kids get through this. Stand up. Be brave. Forget about Wolf. He's nothing. Governor Wolf is nobody. He's a bought and paid for puppet politician. You're local. You're with us. Be with us. We'll help you. Help us. Thank you.
Eva Murphy.
Hi, my name is Diva Murphy. I live at 48 North Grove Street in Scottsdale. Okay, I've been dealing with anxiety for the last 2 weeks over this, so just bear with me here. I'm an alumni from Southmoreland School District. I put my oldest daughter through this school, and I currently have an 8th grader. Both of my children were never problem children. Currently still not a problem child. When I was in high school, I decided I wanted to join the Army and serve my country, because I love my country and I love everything we stand for. My fiance as well, who spoke earlier, served his country. We did so to protect the rights of everybody. We signed that line knowing that we may go to war, we may not come back. For all of you, for all of them, for generations to come. I didn't sign up for my children's rights to be taken away. I didn't sign up for the government to tell me what to do with my children. To touch on what Nicole said, you guys work for us. Back to my service, I learned in the military to read everything. There's black and white, and there's gray areas. There's gray areas in this order. Nowhere in the order does it state you have to have a doctor's note. The PEA, Department of Education, recommends a 504 plan. Recommendation is not a mandate. I urge you to look for those loopholes. You don't have to require a doctor's note. You're worried about liability? My signature takes away your liability. My child gets sick, that's on me. Somebody else's child gets sick, that's on them. You can't prove where you got a sickness from. Kids get sick every year at the beginning of the school year. Do you know where it came from? That's all I got.
Doesn't follow the...
Very much for all the citizens' comments. I know that this has been a long meeting.
Christy, are we going to discuss any of
I said, I don't know where the microphone is. I just said thank you very much for all the citizens' comments. I understand your frustrations, and I appreciate you coming and talking to the board. It's not easy. Dr. Fike, what did you say? I'm sorry.
Are we going to discuss?
Yes.
This work by Eric Winter.
Dr. Fike, could you pull your microphone towards you a little bit, please?
I was reading the work of an attorney. His name is Eric Winter, and he talks about the issue of exceptions. And he's saying that there is absolutely a basis to seek an exception because legal standards and precedents that schools have to evaluate exceptions do not exist. They've never done it before. It's new. There are no rules, no standards, nothing. So how do we handle an exception? Who has the right to judge an exception? Like you said your son's was turned down.
Well, and it was even valid exception by the definition it was given
Yeah.
2 days later.
Okay, so my question is, how are these going to be evaluated as a school district? How are we going to do this?
That's going to fall.
Can we move your part to this part in the meeting? So that we can just discuss this now, since it's right after citizens' comments? Is that okay with does the board, is it okay if we bump this up so we can talk about this now?
I make a motion for the superintendent information to be bumped. That what we're motioning
To be addressed now.
to be addressed now.
Motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Masher. You can address Dr. Fike.
Yes. We had a countywide superintendent meeting this morning. Of course, it had to be held virtually. Okay, and at that meeting, it was asked if Dr. Fox, who is the executive director at Excella Health, would give some information, and I'm just providing you information. Okay. She stated that Excella patients, the numbers are increasing in this area. 98% of them are unvaccinated. I'm just reading.
Can we let him speak?
He has to address everything.
If we could just let Mr. Masha address us.
8 people are currently on ventilators in hospitals. 100% of those were unvaccinated. There is this issue right now is currently one of the biggest issues that is being discussed in every school district, not only in this county, but probably in this state. I would like to, we were also informed, okay, that, and this is information that was presented to us by the executive director of the PA Associations of Intermediate Units, which is the PAIU, which is what we are a member of. And it was indicated that they have become aware that the Secretary of Education is issuing warnings to boards of directors that choose not to comply with the Department of Health order on face coverings. And that it is also going, this is starting to occur, and there seems to be a groundswell that the possibility would exist that this could be replicated. So there is a major concern in districts throughout the county concerning this issue. There is a great divide about how this was approached. Yes, there are districts around us that have exemption forms. I'm not certain. I will not speak for them or their boards. I don't know what direction that will end up going with them. But there are districts in this county that have chosen to follow the same route that Southmoreland is choosing. There are obviously some districts, I'm not too sure how many in the county because some people would not speak, but I'm sure there are some that are not following the mandate, and then there are some that are trying to find some medium by some of these exemption forms that are out there. It was recommended by the association that I'm a part of that we considered following the mandates. And I know this is not what you as a community want to hear, but please understand. And I've stood out in front of maybe some of you and collected the forms myself because I did not want to place my administrators out there without me being the leader of this district. So I stood in front of many of you and I personally collected the forms. Sir, I listened to you. Could you please listen to me? So I stood there and I collected those forms. Okay, and
Go ahead, Mr. Mitchell.
I personally talked to many of you. So I am aware, I am acutely aware of what is going on and what the thought process is of many of you. But I also would like to point out that there are equal numbers of people that have sent emails and vocalized support of what is going on. So this this district is greatly divided.
Could we please allow Mr. Masha to continue speaking?
So, just to give you some
allow Mr. Masha
information,
to speak, please.
currently right now in schools throughout the county, COVID is becoming a problem. In SES, in SMS, currently right now, this is current data that I received today, we have...
Could we please allow Mr. Masha to speak so that we could hear what he's saying?
We have 10 positive cases and 27 kids quarantined. At SPC, we have 3 positive cases, 18 kids quarantined. At SHS, we have 1 positive case, 9 students quarantined. I am just concerned for our students as you are. So thank you.
Sir, you need to be reminded, please, that the public comment portion is over this evening. The board has important work to do. That's what you've asked them to do. And we need the public to remain quiet so that the board can do the important work that you've asked them to do.
Dr. Fike. Dr. Fike.
Sir, no. But you didn't answer my question. How are you making decisions on exceptions? That's my question.
Yes,
When his
could you
son walked in
explain-
with the paper, how did you decide whether it was a valid one or not?
So unfortunately, if we can't hear Mr. Masha speaking, we're going to have to stop the meeting, and I really don't want to do that.
I collected, as I said, I collected the forms myself. I have them on my desk. I went through the form.
Don't respond to them. If you respond to them, that just increases it.
Dr. Fike, in answer to your question, we have been set parameters that we need to follow, and I will review them if they have documentation from a doctor outlining.
See, I think we need to come up with a system so that the public knows how this is happening. I really do, Vince. I think we as a board are legally and ethically obligated to say, okay, this is what we will accept as an exception and this is what we will not. Have you done that?
I'm open for that to occur.
But
isn't that what the phone call was?
What? I'm not sure what you're asking me, Dr.
Well, for
Fike.
example, if he had...
Sir,
I'm really sorry.
Sir, respectfully, public comment is over. We need to allow the board and the administration to have a discussion. This is exactly what you all have asked them to do, and they're doing their job. We're simply asking you to be quiet. I am going to have the chair of the meeting issue warnings if we need to. I don't want to have to go there, but we will. Have a warning be issued, a second warning, and people will begin to be escorted out if the board can't have the discussion that they're here to have.
So, Mr. Masha, the last thing you said is that you were open. Did you say you're open to suggestions on
Yes.
that?
Yes.
Okay.
Dr. Fike,
Well, if you're open to suggestions, then I would have
Can
to
the
say
people who wish to file an exemption use the language that is contained in the order itself? Is that acceptable? And that language, as far as I know, reads that you can request an exception if wearing a face covering would either cause a medical condition, exacerbate an existing one, or cause respiratory issues that impede breathing, a mental health condition, or a disability. So if they use the very language that's in the law, does that not qualify as a valid exemption?
And Dr. Fike, to build on that, since Mr. Masha did ask for suggestions, I'm going to reiterate what you just said, and that order does not say that you need a signed doctor's excuse.
That's what I'm getting at.
So I have to say that if you're asking for suggestions, I would say that there are
I'm
forms
going to
out
go to
there
number
that
7
hold on
of
one
what
second.
Mr.
Hold on one
Masha
second,
said.
Michelle. Hold on one second. If there are forms out there that allow you to take medical exemptions without a doctor's signed note, I suggest we use that because the wording in the order does not say you need a doctor's signature.
Copies of the ones that I have do indicate that at least the doctor's name has to be present.
You're correct. York and Mount Pleasant have a form that has you list your doctor's name and their address and their phone number. It does not ask for their signature. It doesn't ask for their signature. It doesn't ask for anything else. So if you're asking for suggestions, that would be mine.
And I would ask if the board is willing to support that.
And is that something that you're okay with? Hold on 1 second, because it's really hard to hear what the other board members are saying, and I'm trying to make sure that we're allowing enough discussion to make a decision on this. So, Mr. Masher, are you comfortable with something like that?
If that is the direction that the board asked me to go, I mean, I serve you.
No, I'm asking you
What my convictions are. I am a rule follower. I am bound by my commissioned officer to follow what is directed to me by the state. I've stated this before last year, okay? I can lose my license if I do not follow the direction of the state. I am not placing myself or my family in that position. So I'm sorry.
Well, and I totally understand what you're saying, because there are ramifications to this, and that he has been sent letters from the people who govern Department of Education saying that you could lose your license, you could be fined specifically, that administration could be fined, that school board members could be fined, not just I'm not even talking about losing their job, I'm saying being fined. So he is receiving those things. He's receiving things that say you would lose your credentials. But I think that what we need to do is ask the solicitor, is that permissible to have an exemption form by this order that does not allow a signature?
Christy, it must specifically use those words. We don't change one word out of that order.
So the order, it's not a short answer. So I want to start by saying that, okay? So our team of attorneys in our office, we've been going over the order, we've been going over the FAQ, we've been going over the history of last school year to come to an answer to that question. Our recommendation has been that a medical exemption provided by the treating physician or CRNP, PA, we've even received forms from chiropractors, dentists. It's going to depend on the specific condition. And the reason that we have recommended receipt of a medical document, there's an analysis behind it that I just want to take a minute to go through. So the order itself says an exception to wearing face coverings exists if it would either cause a medical condition or exacerbate an existing one, including a mental health condition. So what the order is requiring for an exception is a physical or mental condition or disability. A condition or a disability are things that under Section 504, under the other laws that the school implements, in order to give accommodations for a condition or a disability, we need to know the background of that condition or disability to make sure that the school district is putting proper
I think it is absolutely
accommodations in
asinine
place.
that we are having to pull something out of our rear end to tell you guys, and including myself, what a condition of my child is. That is none of your business. That is none of your business. And I'm sorry. I believe that if any parent, I believe that if any parent would like to have their child have a mask on, absolutely. We are stripped of our choice.
I respect that everybody, and I didn't come. I don't think it's beneficial for me to.
We're not hearing anybody. We're just literally.
Can I please say something?
I'll sign a piece of paper that says I am liable for anything that my child does, becomes sick, or even dies.
Michelle, did you have something you wanted to say too?
I do have something to say for the people who didn't attend this meeting this evening, because they stand very much on the other side of this argument. And I can be booed and whatever else. But I'm going to go to item number 7 that you all received today from Mr. Masha in notes from the Where was this from? From PAIU. And number 7 states, the districts that do not comply with or elect to violate the law, I'm sorry, maybe to the United States Department of Education Office for Civil Rights for investigation. In particular, failure to comply with the order may prevent immunocompromised and other susceptible students from attending class in violation of the IDEA, ADA, and Rehabilitation Act. And I get what every single person in this room is saying. However, when you violate the rights of our special education students, the kids who need to be in that school more than anybody else, I'm sorry, that's fact.
Could we please allow her to speak so that we can hear her too, please?
These kids need to have a voice. Their parents need to have a voice. I can assure you they're not sitting in the auditorium today because they don't want to take it home to their child. When you say it's my right as a parent to sign a form or not sign a form, and I'm taking responsibility of my child, that's fine. But your child is not the only child in that building. There are other children there. What about those children? What about the children who want to comply? Their families want to comply.
I'm really sorry, we can't hear.
So that their children can attend school as well. I'm sorry, going back to last year.
Hey, Michelle, we can't hear you, so I'm going to have to ask you to stop for a second.
We need, what we need, I'm just going to remind the public again. There have been other public school boards that have had to shut down meetings because the audience would not permit the board to have a debate. This is too important, and we need your cooperation. And I'm going to ask the security officers to enforce that.
I agree. Include us in your debate.
Michelle, you can finish.
Overwhelming last year in every survey that we sent out to parents. One of the things that was overwhelmingly, I think it was 70-80% of people wanted their students in school 5 days a week. So the CDC this year has said that if students are masked, they do not need to quarantine. So if you are in a classroom at the front of the room and somebody else is in the back of the room and those students are all masked, they are not going to be quarantining. So masks will keep students in school more frequently than out of school. And I think that's something to be looked at. I understand every single person's rights as far as medical rights go. HIPAA does not exist within a school district. I'm not saying that your students' rights need to be plastered out there. Certainly they shouldn't be. They should be going through one person, possibly the school nurse, then to Mr. Masha if there's a question on that. But it would be the same circumstances if you are denying vaccinations for medical reasons. It's the same thing. So I understand you're probably all having terrible trouble getting a medical physician to sign off on this because nobody wants to be liable, including this school board. I'm sorry, the liability doesn't just stop with Mr. Masha. It lies with every single one of us. Every single one of us. And when you sign an exemption for your student and your student comes to school not feeling well, not through any fault of your own, but because you only see them for a few minutes in the morning before you leave, before they leave. They could be sick. That's generally what ends up happening, is a student has been in the building, didn't realize they were sick in the morning, and now here we are. And who's liable for that? I guarantee you the liability isn't just stopping with this board. And if Mr. Calero wishes for this entire board to resign over this and shut the school down, where does that leave the parents? Yeah, I stand very well firm with what we should be doing and following. I was very willing to just vote no to optional and move on because it's truly not worth it. Nobody here is going to change anybody's mind. That's the truth. I'm not going to change yours. You're not going to change mine. We're all going to find documentation that says one thing or the other thing because that's the world we live in right now. But we are
can't speak.
The rights of
can't
those
speak
who
right now,
wish to
sir.
come to school.
Can't speak
It tells me I don't live in your district. I am a grandfather. I have grandchildren. I live in Connellsville.
Dr. Fike,
Proceed.
I still want to get back to the issue of exemptions, back to the exemptions. And my question is very simple. By following the letter of the law, now, what she said was different than what I was reading. She left out some words and added some words. I want a direct, exact copy of the law that states what is required for an exemption, and I want our parents to be notified of that. And anybody who submits an exemption with that information, we then have to have a system by which somebody who's qualified can review it and determine whether it's valid or not. This Mr. Winters says, you can't just throw it in front of somebody and say, here, validate it. And Vince, I don't even think you want that responsibility. Okay?
I'm not a medical professional.
But there's nothing in place anywhere for schools to make determinations short of the medical ones that they're few and far between. Did you see on the news where some pediatrician got 500 requests for signatures? But I have another issue, and I really hate to bring this up, but yes or no, do masks work? So let's get the exemption issue settled. Let's give the people the letter of the law, not the interpretation, not the recommendation, not somebody's opinion. I want to see the letter of the law. Letter by letter by letter, nothing added, nothing taken away. And that I want to see what in the law qualifies as an exemption. And Nicole, you said nowhere does it say you have to have your doctor sign it. Or I think, Christy, you said that. Okay. So I think we need to resolve this for the community, and I think it can be done. It can be done very quickly. But I will not accept anything that is not the exact letter of the law.
As far as the CDC goes, with saying that as long as, like Michelle was saying, one person up front in the mask, one person in the back of the mask, one person somewhere gets infected, nobody has to quarantine. So we're literally just going to allow everybody to sit in there and just get sick in a mask?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand the...
I'm not sure what you're saying, Nicole. I'm just saying that last year we quarantined entire classrooms.
Right, we're trusting so much in a mask that we're not going to quarantine whenever we have a positive now? If everybody's in a mask?
That's correct.
Like, that's insane.
Well, I think that we can all agree that none of these rules make any sense.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, we can all agree that nothing about any of this makes sense. There's not one thing that's come down that I've thought, oh, that's a good idea. I mean, it's
you got that.
literally everything that comes out, you just drop your jaw because you're like, seriously? None of this makes any sense. And Nicole, I know that we've talked a lot, and I know that there's a lot of people on this board who have researched and looked into things, Dr. Fike included. She's looking at stuff. So, did you have anything you wanted to add about?
I would love to be able to elaborate a little bit. So you're correct, Dr. Fike. Nowhere in Mrs. O'Rear, nowhere in the order does it say a physician has to send a letter. It doesn't say that. It would be wonderful if we were given a little bit more clear of advice of how does this school district, I mean, Mr. Masha is an educator. How does he know that when a parent comes in and says my child has a mental health condition, how to really address that properly in the school setting? Because it's not just a mask. If a parent comes to the school district and says my child has a mental health condition that requires a mask, I'm as a solicitor going to tell him there's a whole lot of other questions you have to ask too, because you have to accommodate all of those issues in order to be compliant with the law. And since 1973, when Section 504 was passed and put into law, which is the law that requires school districts to accommodate students with disabilities, we have always relied on medical professionals to tell us as educators what we need to do to meet the students' needs. And it's with that whole background of federal law that the attorneys in our office have reviewed both PDE's guidance, the order itself, to give our clients the best advice that we're able to give them.
I understand that. I understand that you're obligated to do that, but that's based on an opinion and an interpretation. The American Disabilities Act does not cover masks. It just absolutely doesn't. But the only thing that we need to do as a board, we need to come to a definitive method by which our parents, our children, can come here and legitimately make a decision that was in the parameters, the direct and absolute parameters of the law. I think it would take. Other school districts did it. What's wrong with us? They did it. They must know something.
I mean, if we are saying like, I mean, I don't know who would turn anybody in, but I would not doubt that somebody out there would. But in the same sense, like, just give me 5 seconds here. A person on this side who is masking because they want to, they're choosing to do that for their own health. And maybe for others, fine. And then there's a person over here that's choosing not to mask. I don't think it has to do with whether someone's fearing the disease or fearing the virus whatsoever. It all has to do with choice. And the problem that we're having right now is that we've come collectively together and voted on a health and safety choice. And we didn't know that anything was going to come down from Governor Wolf or whoever the secretary is. Like, we knew nothing. We voted on what we voted on. What these parents right here are saying, please let us have that again. Like, they're not trying to take your license away, Mr. Bachelor. They're not trying to or even want to do that. They just want choice. They want to be able to guard their own children the way they want to guard their own children. We can't fight them for that. I mean, I've seen so many parents in other districts that are like beyond, and I'm sorry, these parents are just standing up for their children. And I mean, who are we, honestly, and I understand what the law says and what this mandate says, but who are we to look at them and say, you don't have a choice anymore? I don't agree with that. I don't agree that they don't have a choice.
Nicole, this may be step one.
I bet you're right.
And I'm afraid of 2, 3, 4 and what's going to come after that.
Exactly. I mean, there's a school district in San Francisco right now that has mandated the COVID-19 vaccine to attend school. And it's
we have a law that protects us in terms of exemption, and I want to use that law.
Are you recommending that, Dr.
Oh,
Fike?
I am.
I'll second.
This board needs to develop a document that goes to the parents in this community that explains their rights under this law and how they can choose to make an exemption. Then our vote, whether it's optional, mask, or what, nothing matters after that. The parents have now voted whether it's optional or not us. But I think we need, I'm making a motion that this board develop an appropriate document that specifically cites the law as to how a person can submit an exemption, for a valid exemption for their child. And also, we as a board and a community, we need some system put in place. Somebody's got to sit there and look at these exemptions and understand if they follow the law. That's what I'm getting at. That's my motion.
I can't hear you. The recommendation is that these exemptions run through the Section 504 accommodation process, which by law requires input from medical professionals. That's the recommendation. And to the point that many board members are making, it is written as a recommendation from PDE. It's a recommendation from your solicitor's office. I give advice. You guys you have been voted in to make these decisions. To the point that Dr. Fike is making, and I think she made a motion, this is a discussion meeting. The voting meeting where action could be taken has adjourned.
Make a resolution, help her, don't fight her.
Mr. Kiefer, come on, let her finish. Let her talk to Dr. Fike.
It could be the board can discuss and instruct the superintendent to put a motion on next week. at the voting meeting that is to occur on Tuesday. Not
Thursday.
Tuesday, Thursday, excuse me. The board also has obviously the option to hold a special meeting. You have to give 24 hours notice to do so, to take action.
We should develop this stuff and call a special meeting for Sunday. Do it for Sunday, so that the people know. The other thing that bothers me is, the existing policy that I think what appeared in that first letter said that if your child comes to school without a mask, we're going to follow the school discipline policy, and that leads to expulsion. Step after step after step after step. What are we going to do? Expel all these kids who don't want to wear a mask? I don't think so. The state of Pennsylvania has a legal obligation that they've had since I think the state began, that every child deserves a free and appropriate public education.
Dr. Fike? Yes. Dr. Fike, I'm going to have to ask you to repeat. Mr. Masha said he could not hear your last part of that. Could you please repeat that?
What did you say, Christy?
Sorry, Mr. Masha said he couldn't hear your last couple sentences there. Would you mind repeating it for him?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
It matters to me, Dr. Fike. I do want to hear what you have to say, Dr. Fike.
Okay, you're talking about the motion. I'm going to make a motion. I want that motion to cite the law, down to the last comma period and so forth, that explains to our parents what it takes to submit a valid exemption. Get that form out to everybody. Then when these forms come back, we better have a system in place that somebody who knows what they're doing, and I'm not saying you don't, Vince, because you don't want that responsibility. It should be a panel where we look at them and say, does it follow the law? You're not judging the child, you're not judging the parents, you're judging, does that exemption meet the letter of the law? Is that it, Christy?
I think that's what he meant.
Yes. That's my motion. And so it's a two-part motion. One is to establish the document, and the second one is to establish a system by which it's evaluated. Talk to other schools, see what they're doing. Maybe you'll have to set up a panel. I think you'd have to set up a panel, wouldn't you? It shouldn't be one individual.
So are you asking that we set up a special meeting? So I think what you're saying is you would like Mr. Masha to
develop the
plan, develop the form, and then have a special meeting to vote on that form. Is that what you're saying?
But I want us to see that form. And
Correct.
Next to it, I want to see a copy of the law. I'm gun-ho on this. It's going to be legal. It's going to be legal because the law does give you people the right to exempt your child. It does.
So I think that, and I think we cannot vote during this part of it, but I think that every board member needs to, and I think that's a great idea. I think that we do need to do that if that's the consensus of the board, but I think everybody needs to speak up and say, if that's something that you want to do, is have a developed plan and then the special meeting. Mr. Kiefer, can you please let us do this part of it? Thank you.
Nicole, weren't you saying that we should be proactive? And that's what I want to be. I want to be proactive.
We've been retroactive enough.
Not reactive. I want to be proactive. I want to help these people. I want to help us. Yes. And we shouldn't hang it all on the superintendent. That's not fair.
Absolutely not. I mean,
okay.
So
we hang it on the law.
That's why we're here to collaborate. So
hang it on the law.
The board does have to be certain that we're not micromanaging parts of it. I think the nurse would be a great person if Dr.
That's one. Yeah. That's one. Okay.
I don't think it should be a panel.
No.
I mean,
I think
how
that
much
the form
information
has to
do we
come
need to know about our students?
Well, all I'm
it
saying is,
should be the
you're
school
right,
nurse.
you're right. Well, no,
I
school
don't need
nurse
to know
doesn't
the health
interpret the
record of
law.
each student
I'm talking
to
about, does it
determine
meet the law,
whether or not
Jason?
they're exempt or not.
Yeah, the medical ones are
You
a piece
said
of
panel,
cake.
so that's what
There is only,
Look at the law.
Dr. Fikes, there is only medical exemption. That's the only exemption that there is. So the school nurse should be able to determine if somebody meets the medical exemption, and if she has a question, that should be taken to Mr. Masha.
That one's easy. What
if somebody believes in like holistic medicine?
There's not an exemption for that right now, according to this mandate. This mandate covers medical exemptions. So that would mean that you're sending in what your child's medical reason is. And Mrs. Zundel, does that...
We can turn all the medical ones over to the school nurse, and then we have 1,000 more that have to be evaluated.
Well, and I think what you're saying is we need a plan. Yeah, bottom line, we need a process that's well-defined with a plan that is easy for every single person to understand. It's not left to interpretation. It's just, this is what it is. Mr. Masha, are you comfortable developing that plan?
I will work in with the solicitor.
I know that
doing
you've talked to other superintendents and even some around us.
I have the plans from other districts.
I think, right there, hold up, slow down. I think that should something we should be voted on again. Dr. Fike, did you receive anything like that?
Pardon me, Nicole?
Like what the other districts were doing, like their kind of pamphlets of their medical exemptions or exemptions?
I know Mount Pleasant.
I don't think anybody received any. I looked them up myself.
But yeah,
You
like
can look them up
seeing them,
online.
like, you know, looking at them and stuff like that. I didn't know if Dr. Fike
Nicole,
had
the
had a
problem
chance
with
to.
Mount Pleasant, and I was in the presence of a parent today, she said, they make you list your doctor.
Right.
And she said, I'm not comfortable with that. You know what I said? Put down Med Express. What? But she said the form was good until it got to the point where it said, you've got to list a doctor and a phone number. And she said, I'm not going to do that. She said, it's not their business who my doctor is.
And I 100% feel that. It's nobody's business.
There's like 5 reasons.
Their child, her child, his child.
There's like 5 reasons to get an exemption. Only one of them is medical.
All right, so I'm a little confused. Okay, so we have a document already, right? That parents
I think we've
filled
all
out
like researched it on our own.
and brought up to the school and signed it. People didn't do that.
I see what you're talking about
They were handwritten letters.
Handwritten letters, and that you denied.
So
I don't understand.
there
So
were-
they did do that, right? People did
Okay.
do that.
I sent in an exemption.
But they were all denied.
Correct.
So I don't understand why now we're going to come up with a plan and then who's looking at it? Are we asking for them to go to the doctors then?
I do have people that supplied proper documentation, a note from a doctor indicating the condition. There are people that have done that.
Yeah, so all of the requests were not denied.
They weren't all denied. But you're saying that now you might look at them again, but they still need to go to the doctor?
We'll outline the procedure. I guess that's what's being determined here.
I hear the board members that have been discussing this to say, you want a form. It's your desire to not have it be required to have a medical person sign it.
Right.
And that's contrary to the solicitor's advice, but that's what I think what you all need to discuss, what your comfort level is with reviewing that, having your administration review those types of exemptions and approve them.
That's what I think. If we're going to do a form, no doctor. That's what the people want.
I think that's what the people want, but there's a reason why we have a solicitor in this district, and it's to protect the district and to protect the board members. I understand that people may want to not submit a doctor's excuse, but if you have a legitimate medical reason, there should be no reason to not give a doctor's name.
Who's to say that a mother telling this district, I'm sorry, my child suffers from severe anxiety, severe depression, severe this, severe that? What is that? I mean, to me, that sounds like a medical excuse.
And that mother who comes in, who's had her child in treatment or maybe seeking treatment, can go to the therapist and get a medical excuse. And we're in the districts that we work with, we're accepting those.
Huh? And that's what I'm saying, but like, why basically you're telling me, well, you're kind of not telling the truth. I only know if you're telling the truth if you go to the doctors and they tell the truth. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, but I am hearing that doctors won't sign
they
the
won't.
paper. They were told if they sign these papers,
they're
that
being
gonna
covered
lose
by
those.
so much because
So
they're
how
being
are they
told
to
not
get them signed? That doesn't make any sense. They can't get them signed if the doctors won't sign them.
So I think
If Mr. Masha is going to work with with the solicitor to try to develop a form, can we please move on?
So I think that the consensus is that we definitely want you to work on it. We need something. We need a plan of some sort. You need to work with the solicitor. Honestly, it should have been done for today. but we need to have that. I don't know if we're saying a special meeting. I have no idea what anybody's saying.
Mrs. Smith, can I please back up a second? In Mr. Mash's defense, there is a plan. There was a plan. He was handling this. He sent out a robocall, the advice of the solicitor, that if you have a medical exemption, that you needed to provide certain information. Now, not everybody agrees or likes that, so now we're saying there was no plan. That's not true. You all just want a different plan. That's the point here. I just want to make it clear that Mr. Masha has been on the phone with the solicitor. He's been on the phone with everybody this week, trying to appease everyone, which is an impossible situation. So there was a plan. It's just this board is deciding now, or certain members of the board are deciding now, that they don't like that plan. So
we didn't get to vote on
There's
that
no
plan.
such.
We never
have
voted
a
on
board.
that.
Why do we have a unilateral decision from Mr. Masha and our solicitor?
So one
we
thing
have a
is-
board for a reason.
Because it is up to Mr. Masha to implement a procedure to move forward with a mandate from the state. We are not voting on anything, nor do I think we should as a board. The guidance, I get it. We all don't like it. It should have happened a month and a half ago if it was going to happen, so that everybody there in the audience could have had a moment to decide what was best for their family, rather than be thrown into this 2 days before school starts, because that's insane. I get it. I get why everybody's angry. But the bottom line is nothing for this board to vote on. That's coming from the guidance of the solicitor. That's coming from the guidance from the state. So as far as having a forum and this and that, I mean, you're still, when we're accepting things that aren't legitimate, and we have no way of verifying that, then you're opening yourself up, you're opening up a whole can of worms here. That's all I'm saying. And Mr. Masha has gone above and beyond trying to resolve these issues. That's all I was saying. There was a plan. The plan was that you needed to provide medical documentation. That's all. Not fill out a form, not anything else. It was to provide medical documentation. That was the plan. That was Mr. Masha's plan, as the guidance was from the solicitor. Not a vote by this board, because we voted. This board voted to make masking optional. That's the last vote this board took. And when the governor lifts this will go back to a masks are optional, because that was the vote of this board. That's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that Mr. Masha has worked on a plan all week long.
We worked on a plan that if nothing goes the way that anybody wants it to go, and we end up shutting down, do we have a plan then?
Okay, so I know that I've had a couple ask if we could have, do we want to take a recess? Somebody else needs to talk and decide what direction we're going with this. I do want to make one statement, though, that about the health and safety plan, we were told, and Mr. Masha, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the health and safety plan that we voted on is superseded. So basically what we did is null and void by this order that came down. Is that correct? So, and I think that is the problem and probably why we're all so confused, because we voted on, in our health and safety plan, we voted to allow the choice to be with parents. Made that vote, the majority of the board wanted that. And that's what we decided. And then it came down that that plan is null and void because it is, and this is now in place. So with the health and safety plan, we don't even have we can vote, but it's already null and void.
So, sir, the public has already had its opportunity to comment.
So,
I can't. We have to continue. Okay, you allow them air
Okay, so I believe, unless someone wants to correct me if I'm wrong, the consensus is Mr. Mash is going to work with the solicitor to try to find something that will work for our district. Yes? That was your suggestion, Doctor. Is that what you're still suggesting?
Christy, how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it?
I have no idea.
I mean, we would have to sit down, I'm assuming with Amy Zundel, who's going to lay down the law. She's going to lay it down. Not an interpretation, not a recommendation, nothing. The law. The law actually coincides with our health and safety plan, because at the very end it says we'll do what the CDC says. Okay, the CDC said pass this law, and the law says you can exempt your child. So we're following the law. Okay? I want that law here, and I want our document here, and I want them to be absolutely specifically identical. You send that out to the people and say, people, if you want your child exempt, we're following this law. This is the, I use the word, you know, kind of loosely here. It's a law. It's not. It's a dictate, whatever it is. This is what we're doing. Look at it, read it. If your child, you know, falls in a category under any of these exceptions, and there's I think 5 or 6, then you sign this document saying this, that you swear this is true, you know, and so forth and so on, and you send it in. Now, if you want to, if the attorney would like to do this, she can say, well, this is the law. But we don't. It's not It's not written in there that you have to have a doctor's certificate. But I think you should. I mean, if she wants to say that, she can. I don't think so. But it should state the law does not state that you have to have a doctor's certificate or a signature, I guess, or whatever it is. It doesn't say that.
Mrs. Smith, what I hear Dr. Fike saying. I'm here at the will of the board. You've hired me to give you legal advice. I think you've heard my legal advice. I'm not going to repeat it, but I want to move you forward. And it sounds like you are interested in having a form that's similar to some of your neighboring school districts. And if that is the will of at least 5 board members sitting here, I'm happy to work with Mr. Masha to put something like that in place so that you can comply with this order to the best of, you know, so that you have to remain in compliance with the order. You've been constrained to that. We're in a space where we're talking about interpretations, right? But if your directive to me and Mr. Masha is clear that you want a form that's similar to neighboring districts, that's what we'll work on. I mean,
my directive is follow the law.
Is that what I'm hearing from? I know Mrs. Smith is in favor of it, Dr. Fike, Mrs. Smith here, and I think Mrs. O'Rear.
I'm in favor of a plan because right now nothing has. Mr. Masha asked for suggestions, so it makes me feel like we don't have one. So that is why I brought something up.
I feel as if right now that the administration and I are placed in a bad position because we have to then, according to what we're told, we have to enforce what the direction we are being told. So I got into this business because of kids. I fully understand. As I said earlier, I am very, very acute to what you are saying. It's just, I'm sorry, I don't know how to interpret the law myself, and I'm being told that I should follow the law. I'm sorry. I have to follow the rules.
So is there interest in having a form that I think Yock's form was shared and passed around that has parents sign off on or check boxes that their child falls within an exemption that's listed in the law? If that is what the board's directive is, then that's what Mr. Masha and I will work on and put it to you for a vote, because you've directed us to do that. And that's how the board governance process would work. This hasn't played out in the court system for us to have a specific interpretation of it. So we're doing I'm coming to you with my best assessment based on my knowledge of disability law, which I've practiced as my primary area of practice for a long time. But you govern this district. So If there are 5 that are in support of a form that's similar to neighboring districts, that's just what we need to hear.
Can litigation be issued against us for following the law? I guess that's my question.
No,
That's what I thought.
you're required to follow the
That's
order.
what I want to do. I want to follow the law, and that law allows for exemptions, right?
I think
Without
specifically
doctor signatures.
So I think that what Dr. Fike is saying is, can we be held liable for having a form that lists that you have a medical condition and this is your doctor's name without a signature?
Without a signature of the physician, the medical provider.
Whatever the law says, Amy, whatever the law says.
My assessment is that could potentially open you up to more litigation if there ends up being a COVID outbreak and some person that has caught COVID believes they've caught it from the school setting down the line wishes to do that. There's a chance that's a very, you can't predict that with any certainty.
But I can predict something.
So,
explain to me why, if a doctor's signature was so important, it wasn't put in the law.
Yeah, I didn't write the
Why
order,
didn't they
so
put
I
it in
can't-
there?
I can't answer that.
They should have put it in there. If we were all going to die from COVID, like Mr. Williams says, why shouldn't we just put it in the law? But they didn't.
So I think that whenever, so we are going
I don't
to,
think we can deny a child an education just because they don't want to put a mask on their face.
Should have put it in there if it was so critical, right?
Can we just sign
They didn't.
Can't any parent just sign a liability clause?
They gave it to us.
Blah, blah, blah.
They gave us that loophole.
okay, so we have discussed this like in and out. We need to come to some sort of conclusion here. So we've been given a lot of different information. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a doctor. I'm not anything. I'm not even a teacher. I'm not an educator. So I don't know. I can look at the law and say it doesn't say that you need a signature. That's what the order says. It's really hard when our solicitor is saying, but I think you need a signature or you're going to be sued, and our school district has zero money to even go through litigation. So when we're talking about stuff like that, it's really hard to say, okay, let's weigh out some of those things because, will the suit go through? I would guess probably not, but we still would spend a lot of money in legal fees. No offense. But, it would be a lot of money. So, there's a lot of different factors to this.
Christy, contact Eric Winter. Ask him.
I didn't hear what you said, Dr. Fike.
Yeah, I'll give you this, but this has the law in it, But everybody has the law. I know Nicole was looking at it over in the other room, But this is commonly known as a second opinion.
Now, the other thing is, if we can't come to some sort of consensus as a group, then we're leaving it in Mr. Mash's hands.
I also want to put in there that this pertains to any staff, students, visitors, or children who are younger than any of our students.
Children younger than 2 don't have to know.
Right,
It applies to any
But I mean,
individual.
there could be like a 3-year-old then.
Is this something that you're going to know?
So, Mr. Masha has found a couple forms that he can discuss with the solicitor.
Yeah.
And then you both can give us your advice on what you think would work.
I would like to hear, I know there are at least 4 board members who are supportive of that type of form. I don't know if there are 5. I think it would be important to hear what the interest in having a forum is from the board members that haven't spoken up. Just so that we're not spinning our wheels on it. At the end of the day, what I want all the board members and Mr. Masha to understand is these forms are going to have to be looked at on an individual basis because you're accommodating an individual condition of the child. So it's not going to, there's going to be an individual analysis of the information provided. And some parents might just provide the form. I'm envisioning a form that asks for any medical information that might be available. So you're not going to get identical for, it's an individual determination.
You can put down.
But is there interest in a form?
You can put down physician's name and phone number, optional, if you want to. Yeah, they can provide it if they want us to. My telephone number's optional. But I get
Mrs. Zundel, the recommendation from PDE is that once you receive these medical excuses, that we should be putting them in 504, correct?
That is correct. The recommendation of PDE is to create a 504 accommodation plan for the child that lists that they do not have to wear a mask in the school setting. A 504 accommodation plan is put in place anytime a student needs an exemption from any rule that applies to other students, such as, if you're not allowed to have a water bottle in class, a student with a medical disability can have a water bottle. That's a pretty
Christy,
simple
I have
example.
a question. If we're going to vote on this motion.
We can't vote on it tonight.
Well, okay, but if you were going to vote on this motion, and you're going to vote no, we don't want to give the people the letter and so forth, what's your suggestion then? What's your alternative? Tell us. Come on, engage in this conversation and tell me if you're opposed to them getting this. What's your suggestion? What do you think we should do?
Who are you asking? Are you asking Christy?
Anybody who wants to volunteer, Michelle. If you intend to vote no, we can't vote on it. But let's put it this way: if you're opposed to the idea that we give people a legally developed form, if you're opposed to that, tell me what your alternative is. What's your option? Tell me.
Just so we're clear, I'm not opposed to a form that would make it easier for people to navigate and know what they needed to do in order to obtain a legal exemption. But I am in favor of placing those children in a 504 so when children move from classroom to classroom, their teachers would be well aware that they are exempt. Because, there's multiple students in the building. So the student moves from classroom to classroom to classroom, how are you that they are an exempt student? A 504, when that's put in place, every single teacher that child has for specials, for gym, for, changing classrooms at the middle school, everybody would be aware that child has an exemption. Otherwise, you have children who don't have exemptions, who their parents believe they are wearing a mask in school, would be moving from classroom to classroom without anybody knowing that they had an exemption. So yes, I'm certainly in favor of a form that makes life easier for parents, but there ought to be the follow-up to that of putting them in a 504 as the recommendation is from PDE. That's my stance. So no, I'm not a no for a form. I'm a no for a form if it just says, hey, here I am, not wearing a mask. Yeah, I'm not for that.
Mr. Masha.
Yes, I would like to add to it, if we develop an IEP for a student or 504, that is in conjunction with the team, working with the parent. That then, in our student data management system, that is documented in our student data management system so that it is clearly evident to all teachers that individual has that accommodation.
So that would be a way that we could work with families
Yes.
to, not necessarily medical, but work with them to figure out how we can allow them to go to school without.
Work together as we're working together.
So that would be the exemption.
Yes.
I think that provides a path forward, creating a document, a form that families can navigate, because it does seem like there's interest in that. And I'm happy to work with Mr. Masha on that to have it put before the board next week.
Mr. Masha, there was somebody in the audience that didn't understand what a 504 was. Can you explain what a 504 is?
A 504 is a plan that's put in place for those individual students that might have some type of medical condition, whether or not it is physical or emotional or mental. Parent would petition the school, the district, to convene a meeting it becomes our obligation to meet with those individuals to develop a plan that is mutual, and then that becomes the premise by which we operate. That then is also, as I said, documented within our student data management system, so that it's clear that if I have little Johnny in class, that there is something that follows him, and I should be abiding by that. That's the same premise that we follow when we're dealing with students with IEPs. We're required to follow those plans.
But it's not an IEP.
It is not an IEP, it's a health plan.
Okay.
We do a lot of them, just as an example, we do a lot of 504s for individuals, and I've, as a principal myself, I developed a number of those for students that had concussions, because that individual that was concussed had a specific problem at that point in time, and we developed a plan to allow that student to work through that problem and mend. So that is what a 504 is designed for.
I believe another example is kids who have migraines are allowed to take water bottles to class with them. This was before you were allowed to have water bottles in class, but I think that's another example of how you could work with that.
Or a broken leg. You know, we've developed 504s for kids that have broken legs, that they have access to the elevators, you know, things like that. So it's all geared towards health-related issues.
It'd just be just as easy.
But the sports and involvement in aerobic activity is one of the exemptions under Section 3.
So do we have a consensus that?
Am I wrong?
Okay, so is that okay with everyone, that we could develop something that would go along these
document.
lines?
Yes, a new
It
document.
follows the order, it allows for people to have exemptions.
Based in law.
I hate to do this, but I'm gonna have to call you out and say, are you okay with this?
Well, ask if
Decide not
anybody
to take part in
disagrees.
this
Ask if
discussion,
anybody
that's fine.
disagrees, Kristen.
You can pass, and it's not an official vote, but I just want to make sure we do hear from
Ask if
everybody.
anybody disagrees.
So,
No, I want a document, but I don't want Mount Pleasant's document with our name on it. I don't want York's document.
No, I think
want
not.
us to.
I think not. I agree with you.
Can we just
But
have
not
something that,
okay,
just a
so,
liability waiver?
and I think that's what Mr. Masha is going to work on.
Why can't we
So,
just have a liability waiver?
Mrs. Rhodes?
I'm fine with that, but I think if you're going to require, if you're going to ask for an exemption, then the doctor's name and address, phone number should be on that document.
Candace? Mrs. Raymond? Or make a new form. I'm sorry? Yes, please make a new form. Okay. Heather? Mrs. Smith?
Yes.
Dr. Feig, I know.
You have 5 minutes to finish this
Michelle.
meeting, Kristen.
5 minutes to
You
finish
have
the
5
meeting?
minutes to finish this meeting. We've resolved this now.
Okay.
Let's go on.
Michelle, Mrs. Williams?
I agree that there should be a form, I agree with Mrs. Rhodes that it should include medical information that the family can then work with the district to provide for.
Maybe then there should be 2 forms, 4 forms, 5
Yeah,
forms.
we needed more than one then, because we have different
So
ideas
I
of
think
these
that
forms.
I think that is what will take part. I think that's what will take place, is that they'll come up with a form that talks about the 504, gives you the medical exemption, and we'll vote on that next week.
Send it
Is that
out to
okay with
everybody.
everybody up here? Okay. All right, so we are going to go back to the top of this agenda. Minutes of the June 24th, 2021 meeting. The board will be asked to accept the June 24th, 2021 minutes. Any discussion? Okay. Minutes of August 12th, 2021.
The board will be asked to accept the August 12th, 2021 minutes.
Discussion? Questions? Monthly board treasurer's report.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the treasurer's report.
Conduct, do you have anything to add to that, or self-explanatory?
Self-explanatory.
Okay. Any discussion on that or questions? Okay, general fund board summary report.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the board summary report for September 2021.
Did anyone have any questions about that? Non-fund accounting and food service check summary listing.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of the August 2021 fund accounting and food service check summary listing.
Any questions on that? All right, Mr. Masha, did you have anything else under the superintendent report?
I do not.
Can't imagine that you would. Business manager, would you, Mrs. Monbach, do you have anything that you would like to report?
I have two things real quickly. Yesterday, I did meet with Mr. Karmada to start the business office audit. We met for probably a series of about 4 to 5 hours. He is going to come back next week and certainly, as I rip it apart. I met with Mr. Kamada yesterday to start the business office audit. He was in our office for about 4 to 5 hours, and we went over some things in depth. He will be back next week, and we'll continue forward. I also received the responses from my banking RFP that I set out. I'm in the process of beginning to review those right now.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about that? Solicitor information, did you have anything else to add?
I do not. I have one item later on in the agenda that I can speak to when it comes time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Second reading for policy 903.
Said it.
This is the second reading.
The second
Any
reading.
discussion about that?
This is the policy that limits public input. Cuts it by 40%, people. Pay close attention to it. This board should not cut public comment by 40%. That is wrong. You saw what happened here tonight. You
Just to
can't
remind everybody, it takes it
take
from
this
5
away.
minutes to 3 minutes.
It should stay at 5.
I'm sorry?
It should stay at 5.
Any other discussion on that? Okay. Yep. Oh, I thought you were raising your hand, Candace. Approval for cyber threat insurance. No, I'm sorry, go back. Advertise for kindergarten teacher.
The board is asked to ratify the advertising of the anticipated kindergarten teacher position.
Any discussion?
Ratify?
Approve.
Approve. So we
already approved the advertising of it.
We had to advertise this again, Mrs. O'Rear.
What?
You have to advertise it again.
We had to advertise again, and we're ratifying it because we have actually already advertised.
Okay, so this is the one that we had a kindergarten teacher, we talked about this last meeting, the kindergarten teacher bid into another position.
Right.
And we knew that there would be an anticipated vacancy in this.
Okay.
So with that knowledge of the anticipated vacancy, we allowed Mr. Masha to, 3 days after the meeting, go ahead and advertise for that if no one else had bid on that position that she was moving into, knowing that there would be that. So at the last meeting, we said, with the assumption that she is the only one in taking that position, vacating her kindergarten position, go ahead and advertise. Don't wait until September, until our next meeting. Go ahead and advertise it as an anticipated vacancy. So now we still have to officially vote on doing that. So we did it last month as an anticipated.
Okay.
Currently working on filling that position.
And he's interviewing.
Yes, we're currently interviewing for that position, so.
I thought the interviews were done for that position. I'm under the completely different assumption then.
For the kindergarten position?
Yeah. Because the
This
interviews
is
just
what we talked
happened this
about in
past
executive
Monday.
session.
First round.
6 o'clock, we talked about this. Mr. Hachu had a few comments. I don't know if anybody
This is
remembers.
second
It's a
round
personnel
interviews.
matter. I don't want to,
Oh, sorry.
I mean, we
I
did.
didn't even realize that.
We discussed it in executive.
Right.
Mrs. O'Rear, that was the first round that occurred earlier this week. I think it was Tuesday. And I'm not on the second round.
We did, but we have the second round.
Mr. Polakowski, I think they were talking about the learning support earlier. The kindergarten, he did interviews on Tuesday.
Right.
There's a second round. That was the
Okay,
first
so that was
interview.
just the first, okay. Then that's,
Yes.
that's my fault. I was not understanding that. I thought that was like the completion of it all.
No.
Okay.
No. No, their second interviews are coming next week, I believe.
Yes.
I have been told, Mr. Masha told us that they would be completed and ready to be voted upon who the teacher will be at next week's meeting.
Oh, okay.
That was, now we've had a lot of
the
things
plan,
going
yeah.
on. That's
That's
the
the
plan.
plan. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay, any more discussion on that? Approval for cyber threat insurance.
The board will be asked to approve the purchase of $250,000 for cyber threat insurance at a cost of $250.
Is that for the year?
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion on that further?
Yes, I'd like to remind the board that one of the components of the Southmoreland School District is our vote tech. And our vote tech was hit.
They were.
And they were hit for a ransom. I don't want to talk about that, but I think we would be remiss. $250. I think that was 1% of what they can demand, if things happen. But I do think that the fact that even one component of our school district, and it is a component of our school district, has already been hit, I think that we should again, Nicole, we should be proactive instead of reactive.
That would essentially shut our district down.
Okay, any more discussion on that?
Is this through DeFurio and Monjo? I know it says Fifth Wall Solutions, but is that?
Yes, it is. It is from. Whenever Mr. Masha and I met with him, they suggested that we take this under consideration. Therefore, we put it forth for your vote next week.
Okay. Approval for WPA Natural Gas Consortium.
The board will be asked to approve participation in the Western Pennsylvania Natural Gas Consortium.
Any discussion on that?
What's this get us? What benefit would we get from this?
It gets us consortium pricing for our natural gas, and this has been something that we've been a part of for several years.
Okay.
So basically
Recommending it,
discounted because
Yes.
there's more people buying. Okay.
Pam, you're recommending this?
Any other? Appeal of Seritage KMT for the Crossroads Plaza property taxes.
The board will be asked to accept settlement of the appeal of Seritage KMT for the Crossroads Plaza property for tax years 2019, 2020, and 2021 at a market value of $6,350,000 for all years.
I'll do just a brief summary of this for the board. This is the old Kmart property that now has Big Lots and Aldi in it. There's a pending appeal for the assessment value for 2019, 2020, and 2021. The appeals were initiated by Seritage, who had been the owner of the property. There was a hearing held in August on this that our office attended on behalf of the district. At this point in time, they are asking the taxing bodies to consider settlement for all three of those tax years at $6.35 million in value. That is the price paid by the most recent purchaser of the property in December of 2020. So it is believed to be an indication of an accurate value for the years that are still at issue. So our office and Janet Burkhart and Megan Turnbull, who work more closely with taxing assessment matters, have recommended that be approved by the school board. In the attachment, you'll see the tax impact of the reduction in overall.
Has this been settled at $6,350,000? Is that a done deal?
It is not a done deal until each of the taxing bodies approves it.
But you're asking us that if it would become a done deal, would we approve it? Is that what this is?
I think
Well,
she's
you have to
asking us
approve
to make it a done deal.
We
We're
have
going to
to.
vote on that.
We have to approve.
Yes. Yes, we have to approve that.
Stuff is so far above my pay grade. But I know it was contested for a long time, and I know this is what the ideal settlement is on our behalf, but I just didn't know. Not a done deal. Okay, that's all right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
The attachment that is in here, it makes it look like we're going to receive less taxes from them?
That is correct. We will actually owe them a refund of $82,606.06.
So,
We're looking at that. They are going to ask for the tax impact. The taxes were at $1,91696.43 in 2019. It is, the taxes with the new assessment would be dropped down to $67,646.04, which is a tax impact of $24,000. So when you look at the total years of 2019, 2020, and 2021, they've essentially overpaid $82,000.
So I'm not trying to be obtuse here, but you're saying that it's going to be, the settlement is for it to be valued at $6,350,000, and this paper says that it was assessed at $1,127,000. So I'm confused how we lose tax. Maybe I'm just not understanding the way the numbers are written.
Yeah, because I basically took what.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get you that answer, Ms. Raymond, from Janet Burkhart and Megan Turnbull, who work more closely on this.
Okay.
But I'll make sure that information is provided. I think we just need just a further explanation of why that's being recommended to you. And I apologize that I'm not able to give that this evening, but we'll get that to you.
I have a question too. The current assessment, it's like 19, 20, and 21. There were improvements made on that building. Did the assessment go up after those improvements were made, or does it just stay the same?
That was all a part of the looking at what appraisals would have been available for the property and of what amount was reasonable to recommend for settlement. But I'll make sure that we get the answer to that question.
And are you saying they did not pay their taxes for 19, 20, and 21?
No, they did pay them.
Pay their taxes. It's a refund.
It's a refund that they're looking for.
Any more questions on that? We can have more information before we actually vote.
Yes.
Okay.
What I'd like to do is have a memo issued to you so that you can review it in advance of Thursday.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
SPHS MOU, Drug and Alcohol Case Management Assessment Service.
The board will be asked to approve a memorandum of understanding between SPHS and the Southmoreland School District.
Any discussion on this? Approval requested for RFP development for transportation routing software.
The board will be asked to approve the request to allow development of a transportation RFP.
Mrs.
Yes.
Londoff, do you have?
I do. I can tell you that currently we utilize an Excel program to do our routing, and it's all done manually. I was not at all happy with the way that transportation started out this year. I have already begun contacting our local, some of the local districts in Westmoreland County to ask them what current routing software that they use. I can tell you in talking with CSIU, there are two softwares that integrate quite nicely with CSIU. One is TransFinder, the other one is Versatrans. The thing that I really like about the system is instead of having to manual enter 2 and 3 things in an Excel spreadsheet, and each time you touch something, you have the propensity for error. With CSIU and an integration to a routing software package, when the demographic information is changed in the student software side of the software package of CSIU, that night that information is downloaded into the routing software package, and the updates are made in real time so that we don't have to wait. And so that hopefully some of the issues that we experienced the first day will be alleviated, and that's what I'm trying to do. And I can tell you, looking at the budget, since we opted not to replace the van driver, the second van driver, there are funds in that account because 2 van drivers were actually budgeted. So I would propose using those funds to integrate, to get the routing software package for us to hopefully move us forward and work on having a much smoother transition for transportation in the future on the first day.
Anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah,
Yes.
I know that some larger bus companies have that software available, and they let the districts use it. Locally, do districts purchase that and just use it on their own? I know there's a collaboration between our bus company and the district on how they do the routes. So do you think they would be able to help purchase that?
I can tell you, when I worked at Hempfield, we outsourced our transportation at the time to First Student. I'm not sure if they still utilize First Student or not, but we as the district actually did the assessment and did the purchasing of the software package. I do know in talking with Allison Willis from Mount Pleasant School District, DMJ does have TransFinder themselves. I also contacted JR from Greensburg-Salem. He said that their bus company uses the same software package, so it's kind of a mix. Some districts foot the bill, other districts share it with their transportation company. It is something that I am open to talking with the Showmans about to see if it's something that they're willing to help foot.
Thank you.
Anything else? Day-to-day substitute cafeteria worker.
The board will be asked to consider the approval of Caitlin Rittenauer as a day-to-day cafeteria substitute on an as-need basis, pending receipt of all clearances.
Discussion? Resignation of head middle school wrestling coach and assistant middle school wrestling coach.
The board will be asked to accept the resignation of Timothy Boring as head middle school wrestling coach and Zach Bixler as assistant middle school wrestling coach and authorize administration to post the positions.
Any questions? Before we move to citizens' comments, is there anything else that?
I have one question. So the mask, I know that the kids have to wear them in school and on the buses now. What about like if you're walking into the building? Outside, like getting in your car, do you have to have it on?
The order only applies to outdoors. Indoor settings, excuse me.
So they don't have to have them outside of the school? And teachers as well? Okay.
Teachers were asked if they were on bus duty, though, as kids are coming off the buses, that they have to wear masks, then we should be modeling behavior too.
Okay.
Citizens' comments?
For recess, these kids don't have to have these masks on during recess either, correct?
Outside recess, they do not need to have masks on, no.
No.
Okay, I just wanted to verify that.
Okay, citizens' comments. Sorry, Mr. Kiefer.
Well, then if they're not required outside, why aren't we developing our outside facilities with tents and things so we can go to have meetings like this at the tent outside? We got to get our feet out of the concrete and get with the idea that we're going to live with a pandemic world, and this is what you do in a pandemic world. You don't go into small spaces where air is constrained. If we would get our children vaccinated, we'd have, and that's coming by Christmas. They're going to try to get them all vaccinated by Christmas. Can you imagine if the theories of, or not the theories, but the evidence is showing that people who are recently vaccinated are shedding and affecting the people around them? It would be the perfect storm to have all the children freshly vaccinated and all of them right in school. Then the vaccinated would be the predators, and the unmasked and unvaccinated would be the prey. You know, when I watch TV, as part of my civic work, I can watch for 30, 40 minutes going through the 4 news channels and the networks. And I see often it's just the same talking points in the propaganda that we see all the channels all the time. It's been horrible, as we've sort of acknowledged here. And I can tell you that they've had that, you know, these talking heads, these doctors, these agencies, these government officials, the politicians themselves. what they're saying on TV all the time, over and over again, has been deconstructed over and over again. But we have a serious censoring problem. And if you don't jump out of your little refractory news thing, you don't understand what these people are saying. And where this conversation always goes then is Mrs. Williams would say, well, you know, you're going to get your source, we're going to get our source, we're never going to agree. That's not true. And this is the problem our community has, and here's the solution. When Mrs. Williams comes out, or you pro-mask people and these anti-mask people, we sit down and we look at that evidence, and locally, in a forum that's not like this, we duke it out. And we deconstruct and we listen to what your information is, and you do vice versa, and we're going to settle some things. Believe me, I know what you're talking from. I study your side of the argument better than mine. And you will not have that forum. And you know, why do I have to keep repeating myself? You got to put a pin in this pressure valve here. This community and this country is going down to the end of here where we're not. It's the Tower of Babel. We are not communicating. You are up here and you voted for masks last year, and you've never demonstrated even the beginning of the base of knowledge that these people bring in here. We would clean your clock if we go into a 4x4 person information. I don't want to call it a debate because you would run and cry. But whatever you want to call it, you come out and you even put the Zoom meeting that your superintendents had and give us a chance to deconstruct your information. What's a case? What's a vaccination? What's an immune? You won't do that. Why won't you show us what you're doing with those supervisors, Mr. Masha? That's where the big decisions are coming from. But you will hide that information from us. There's no transparency here, and our country is this close. We are one bad luck away from really dissolving here. If you think I'm an alarmist, then you study your history. You look around the world, you see what's going on around the world as much as someone who's going to put 2 or 3 hours a day on this, and you'll see the millions protesting, you'll see the lockdowns, you'll see the successful early intervention in this whole COVID narrative is garbage. And we can take it apart, but you have never on the local level put yourself and made yourself vulnerable. So come on. Someone's got to show the leadership here. It's not going to be anyone here yet. It might be someone out there, but if we don't hammer this out in our community, and I understand there are a lot of pro-mask people and pro-vaccination people, let's talk it out. If we don't talk it out, you know what's going to happen? It's not pretty. And the onus is on you. And so the board president doesn't do it, the superintendent doesn't, Fike tries to do, someone's got to do it. And I'm giving up on the school board. I mean, I think we just need to go rogue, and I wouldn't care if you shut down over this and we straighten things out, because things are not straightened out now. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Kiefer.
Mr. Miller, no relation to Christie. So thinking about the forms development, and again, I'm just processing it as it was discussed. I worry that if you only come up with one form for vote and you reject it, you will be unresolved, that will not be successful. I'm going from memory that there's also some other action that happens on the 16th with regards to the Pennsylvania Department of Health. So you may have to have some adjustability. So maybe 2 forms or 3 forms, some idea that covers a couple bases, because to get everyone to agree, right, I'd hate to see you fail and come into, like, one form's in front of you and no one likes it, or the majority doesn't like it, and you don't have a resolution. You don't have completion of that. And the other thing I was thinking about with regards to the 504, boy, I hate singling out my son, but you guys are forcing me to give more detail, right? So he's an accomplished athlete, and he also has a serious physical problem. And one of the ways he got to be that athlete is from a pulmonary doctor's instruction to go swimming, right? So he found a talent. Awesome. So this is all documented in our sports screening, family ID, and that's affiliated with Excella. So when I put that in the exemption, it's been documented for several years. Do we not even consider the family ID and that Excella as accurate? I mean, like, so I had to sign releases for that and say, let's just say figuratively, an asthmatic condition that could be induced by a mask, that wouldn't be taken into consideration for the exemption. Then thinking past that, how would that take you to a 504 condition for that? Do I have to make the determination that I want my son identified as on a disability because he has something that I'm hoping he outgrows, but is regulated through strong physical activity? It makes sense to me. And again, the rejection doesn't make sense to me either. That's why I called you out specifically. But I wanted to know if the solicitor actually read them. So that was so there is a physician's involved, and it's been documented for several years, but it just didn't jive for me. So I worry that we get to this form, we're going to be in a similar situation. He's managing it, but when he gets anxious, he has to take it down. Or you're going to be faced with an asthmatic attack that's going to be, and I'm sure there's kids that have all kinds of things that are driven, not just from a stress or allergen-induced asthma, or anxiety could do it, I think. I'm not an expert on that stuff, but I want to put those subject matters out when you consider the form. It's not going to be very cookie cutter, right? You're going to have a broad swath of reasons that are valid by parent. And again, who knows better, right? I have 4 children in the school district.
Sir, you can have a medical condition and not be disabled, right?
Right.
That's what that
Right.
boils down to.
And I'm going to speak to you from passion, because after I say this, I'm going to have to leave. I lost a son, my oldest son. I speak with great empathy. No one knows, well, I shouldn't say no one knows, but the majority of you don't know Henry had an older brother. And this is a little bit of experience talking. So take that into consideration when you consider what you do and how you do. These kids are in pain. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Hi, my name is Michelle Hall. I live at 507 Market Street in Scottsdale. I honestly had no intention on speaking tonight, but after sitting here listening to everything that's going on, I kind of wanted to share a little bit of my story. I do work in the medical field, and I've been reading this exemption, and Section 3, Part B says, if wearing a mask covering would either cause a medical condition or exacerbate an existing one, including respiratory issues that impede breathing, a medical condition, or a disability. I have to wear a mask all day long. Like I said, I work in the medical field. 4 months ago, I started having headaches every single day. I go home from work, I'm pretty much debilitated. Is this what we want to do to our kids? I mean, not only, I'm on medication now. I was never on medication before for daily headaches. The depression that it's causing. And also, and one question, on the first day of school, I have to ask this. How many kids actually had a mask on, not knowing that they did not have to wear them? How many of them actually had them on? Did any of you know?
I think almost no one. I can tell you my 2 children had masks on the first day of
Okay.
school. I can speak for my family
But that
personally.
was their choice.
Yeah, I can't
Okay.
speak for generally.
I just want you to consider the conditions that are going to come down the road from these 2. You're going to get children that are going to have headaches. Their moods are going to be depressed. With that, changes in their behaviors. They're going to either rebel, they're going to hermit. So just when you're doing this, just consider the consequences down the road. I mean, you get these kids at school, at the middle of lunch, I have a headache. Are you going to let them take a mask break because they're breathing in their carbon dioxide all day long? I mean, even there's studies out there that OSHA has these detectors that when you have the mask on, you put this detector up to your mouth, it goes off. When you're working in a construction site and that goes off, you're supposed to get out of there to clean air. But this is what we're doing to ourselves all day long. And I'm going to tell you, I was anti-vaccine. I got vaccinated because I didn't want to have to do this. My son wants to get vaccinated so that he doesn't have to wear this mask. So just think about their well-being down the road. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Erica Mao. I live on 918 Reservoir Street. My 6-year-old just started kindergarten this year. I am a nurse at Frick Hospital in their float pool. I've been a nurse for several years, since 2009. And I think just from listening, like I prepared a thing, I sent it out in the email. I didn't end up reading it. But so I think a lot of my issue is it depends on where you get your information, because I do not align with a lot of the mask mandates and the pro-vaccinations after doing my own research, and it is valid. I know a lot of people will act like it's not, but you can obviously find anything on both sides. And so when it comes to this form that you're speaking of, I was kind of yelling from the back because a lot of doctors, much like yourself, where you said you don't want to possibly lose your licensure or something, they're kind of in the same boat. And so my 6-year-old that's going to be attending, whenever I was 31 weeks pregnant, I found out she had a congenital heart defect, and I did absolutely everything right, and I blamed myself. And now I believe she has a great purpose here, but her oxygen saturation is 93 to 95%. And so Pediatric Associates of Westmoreland does not feel confident to put their name to anything. And her doctors at Children's are unlike me, and they are pro-vaccine, pro-mask, and they want her to be wearing this. So I'm in the profession. I have been at the bedside. I have seen people die on COVID, and I've been the only person there holding their hand because we would not allow family members in, and I don't think that that's the best way to move it going forward. As a nurse, we are supposed to get flu shots, but we can also have religious exemptions. So like you're saying, I think there are more than just medical exemptions, but HIPAA was created for a reason, and I don't think that if doctors are being, like, you don't want to go a certain way because you want to protect your family, and I understand that, and you want to protect your licensure, and so do these doctors, so we're kind of all like, we all want the same thing. I believe you're here because you care about kids. We're here because we care about our kids, but mostly, to me, it's not anymore about you want a mask, you don't, you love Trump, you don't, just like everybody said, it's about our freedoms. Like, people were falling off a plane for a reason to get here. America is important, and it's because we have a choice. And all of you voted, apparently, that we could have a choice. Like she said, how many kids actually wore a mask on the first 3 days of school? I know my kid didn't. And I think that they should have a say. And I'm just here basically to fight for our freedom and to say that I know they're going to give certain information in the hospitals, but it's all about where you get your information. You can find things on both sides. Ultimately, I just think you need to think about a lot of people's situations because we're not all the same, and doctors aren't okay with it either. So we need to find something that's going to help you and help us and allow our kids to get the education that they're in need of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there aren't any other citizens' comments, I will take a motion. Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.